2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome to the Maggie and Perloff Show. Maggie is out, and that is a good thing for her because I am about to rip Shedeur Sanders backers. EJ Stewart is in. And yes, again. And EJ, unfortunately, I had to put you in the position of being the Shedeur Sanders backer.
Oh, great.
Because last night, the Cleveland Browns traded backup quarterback Kenny Pickett to the Las Vegas Raiders, which means that their quarterback depth chart reads Joe Flacco number 1, presumably Dillon Gabriel number 2, and Shedeur Sanders number 3. So now Pickett's out of the way, and Shedeur is going to be third string. Are you happy now, Shedeur fans, that Shedeur Sanders will be the third string quarterback? Because you were so mad that he was, not you particularly, everyone was so mad that he was a fourth stringer not getting an opportunity. Now they clear out Pickett, so he is closer to actually taking a snap in an NFL game, not a preseason game. And this whole idea that they were holding him back intentionally, or it even got to the point where they wanted to, quote, make him look bad in the preseason game by having guys who were about to be cut on his O-line, that was all ridiculous. Everything the Browns did was normal quarterback development. Besides drafting him after the 5th round, they had their first string quarterback play the last preseason game. They had Dillon Gabriel was drafted in the 3rd round ahead of Shedeur Sanders, who was drafted in the 5th round. Of course, I would hope so. Right. That's called draft order. That's how the NFL works. And then they put in their backup 4th string quarterback at the beginning of the second half of their 3rd preseason game. And he played poorly because the guys around him stunk, but they know that. They knew who the guys were. They are evaluating him. The point of preseason is to evaluate your own players. It's not to put on a show for a former college star's army of fans. So I think what they're doing is actually so much closer to normal here, and everyone is turning it into craziness. Now that Pickett's gone, it proves that they're totally fine having Shedeur Sanders as the third string quarterback. That was the plan all along, probably. I think Andrew Berry, the GM, wanted to trade one of these guys, and Pickett's the only one that made sense. No one's trading for Dillon Gabriel. Yeah. No one's trading for Shedeur Sanders. So Pickett's gone, and now Shedeur Sanders will get a shot just like a normal 5th round quarterback. EJ, does this all ring true to you?
Well, to me, you said one thing that I agree with a lot is that this is normal for the Cleveland Browns. Because the way I look at this right now is, you're right. Listen, Shedeur Sanders now, he's a 3rd string quarterback as a 5th round pick. with his pedigree. I think that's a fair place to be. I don't think that he should have been drafted behind Dillon Gabriel, but that was their assessment of those quarterbacks. So considering Dillon Gabriel was 3, he's 5, I can be fine with that. I still say this is vintage Cleveland Browns and normal Cleveland Browns behavior, because what this tells me is training camp was a complete waste of time. It was a complete waste of time because they kept around 4 quarterbacks knowing that one of these veterans was going to go. And if that was going to be the case, now this is going to be the time, training camp, when a player like Shedeur Sanders is probably going to get the most time to develop, right? He's going to get probably the most reps he's ever going to see. He's going to get the most time in a preseason game. This would have been the opportunity for him to really learn and grow. Once you get to the NFL season, the third-string quarterback is an afterthought. He's holding the clipboard. He's got the headset on. Maybe he's doing some scout team stuff. Otherwise, he is a non-factor when it comes to just the machinations that happen with an NFL team. So to me, if you were the Cleveland Browns, your whole plan all along was to have Shedeur Sanders be the third-string quarterback, then he just should have been the third-string quarterback. Once you realize that the draft worked out in your favor and you had a chance to get Gabriel and Sanders, 2 quarterbacks that they clearly liked, then you should have been getting ready to get one of these guys out of there before. I feel like this whole quote-unquote quarterback competition, maybe some of it not their fault because, Pickett got hurt, but all this became such a waste of time. There never really was a competition, and therefore that the reps that Shedeur Sanders could have got that would have actually helped his development didn't happen. So now he's already going to be behind the 8 ball.
Kenny Pickett wasn't even out there. Dude injured his hamstring on July 26th. What reps was he stealing then?
Well, he was still doing 7-on-7, so it wasn't like he wasn't playing at all.
He just came back for 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 recently. He really hasn't been a big factor. I mean, they've done what they've done with Shedeur, totally irregardless of what's happening with Kenny Pickett. Also, obviously, a couple things. They wanted Kenny Pickett to compete for the starting job.
They did.
That's legit. But based on their language in Cleveland, I think they wanted Kenny Pickett to win the starting job over Joe Flacco. So, and then they were also waiting for a trade opportunity. They needed a backup to get hurt. Aiden O'Connell broke his wrist. That opportunity showed itself, and that's when they made the trade. So they weren't going to do it earlier because they wanted to get their 5th-round pick they gave up for Kenny Pickett back. So that the timing was they had to wait for an injury, and they did. So they came into this camp they said, here's our plan. We're going to basically, they didn't exactly say it, but they showed us we're going to let the 2 veterans, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, compete for the starting job, and then we're going to put Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders on a separate field and let them develop slowly. And that plan makes some sense. I mean, I think that I also disagree with you. What makes you think that Shedeur Sanders should have been drafted ahead of Dillon Gabriel? That the NFL said differently. The NFL said Dillon Gabriel is more valuable because he went in the 3rd round. Also, what's wrong with Dillon Gabriel? Dillon Gabriel was also a huge star in college. Dillon Gabriel had more experience than anyone, had more yards. He's just short. He's short.
Right, and that's that's a big thing.
But I mean,
no pun intended.
But Dillon Gabriel at one point was considered a possible 1st-round pick. It's not like he's some scrub that they picked out of nowhere. Like, it's not some guy who played in the Ivy League or something. Dillon Gabriel arguably was a better college quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he won at a much, much higher level.
Yeah, he played on much better teams. I mean, if Shedeur Sanders would have played for Oregon or played for Oklahoma, I think that he would have won a lot more games, too. I mean, Shedeur Sanders was a team that went 2 games.
Gabriel was probably a better college quarterback. It's pretty close.
I don't know about that, to be honest. To me, you're talking about Dillon Gabriel, a guy who went to much better schools with much better talent around him. He won a lot. Like, I'm not going to say
he was at UCF.
No, I'm talking about after that. Yeah. Right. At UCF, he was really good. But guess what?
And by the way, he was out of Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley.
No, but he still was basically coming right off after Lincoln Riley just left, and they still had a lot of those players left over. So he was at much better situations. I mean, UCF, quite frankly, was a better situation even than Colorado. UCF has been a good program in college football for a decade now.
Yeah, but I mean, no offense to Shedeur, but Shedeur was throwing to Travis Hunter and LeJontay Wester, and like he had some receivers at least.
Yeah, but you saw his offensive line. I mean, he was playing behind essentially nobody. Some of those guys might have been playing in that preseason game when he got sacked 5 times because I thought it was a deja vu all over again. Look, to me, I mean, listen, again, I have no problem if you want to say Gabriel had more success than Shedeur Sanders. I look at Shedeur Sanders as a guy who went to a place that won nothing and had nothing, and they became a respectable, good program by the time he left. So I do think that I would have evaluated him as a better quarterback. Also, again, the size is not nothing. I mean, the guy is 5'11". He looks smaller to me when he's on the field. I do feel like he's going to have some physical limitations that could be a problem for him on the next level.
So here's the thing, though. You're basically basing this all on the original sin of Shedeur falling to the 5th round.
I don't think he should have fell.
Well,
I don't think he should have fell. I think
that might be true, but you have to face the reality. He did fall.
Yeah,
Teams
no, I get
did
that.
not want him. Basically, 31 teams around the NFL didn't want him. The one team that did want him is the one that we're killing because they're quote unquote not developing the right way. It's just all ridiculous. Can't we just let this grow organically, as Kevin Stefanski keeps saying? The Browns keep saying nice things about Shedeur. Again and again and again. They're he's done everything we've asked. Mm-hmm. He's been a good teammate. He's learning. He had a lot to learn. That's what they say. And he's working really hard to do it. What is wrong with the way the Browns have treated Shedeur Sanders?
What's wrong is that I think, again, when you look at their plan, it just seems backwards. If you really wanted these guys to be your quarterbacks of development, the time to develop them is spring and summer. The time to give them the most reps.
And they did. They put them on the separate field and gave them a lot of different work.
Well, there's plenty of reports of people saying Shedeur Sanders is basically throwing to trainers. He's not throwing to real receivers. He's not throwing to anybody that's going to make a difference. So there's plenty of that out there where he really wasn't getting a lot of reps the way a quarterback should. And again, if you were going to go with 4 quarterbacks, and that was your whole plan this whole time.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. But my thing was, okay, I get why. I guess why he's not getting any reps. The whole plan was to go to 3. Again, my problem is now we're in the fall. Now football season begins. Where is his development happening? Where is he getting these reps? Where is he getting these opportunities? I don't think that's going to happen. So to me, they wasted their time with a quarterback competition that was of zero consequence. The Browns are a bad team. They're not in a position where they're going to win. And they had 2 guys who are not part of their futures battling for a QB1 spot when we know that the plan for the Browns has nothing to do with this season. It's all about next season. So if next season is really more important, which the draft showed us that, which how they've put together this quarterback room tells us that, then why weren't you prioritizing those guys getting more opportunities in preseason, in spring, and during the summer? So that's where I look at this and say that this is typical Browns. They got to the result they needed to get to, but they did this cockamamie way to get to it, and now.
Well, how else were they supposed to do that?
You say no. You just sign Joe Flacco and say Joe Flacco is QB1. We're drafting a quarterback to be our developmental guy, and then we're gonna have another quarterback here because we want to take a look at Shedeur Sanders. That's how you do it. You don't have 4 guys battling for a fake quarterback competition.
Well, you got to
remember a team that's terrible. That didn't make any. That never made any sense.
You got to remember, Joe Flacco is off the couch. You're like, let's sign Joe Flacco. I mean,
that was the thing. He was the last guy they added. Why didn't they just sign him earlier if they were so interested in him?
Because they're not that interested in him. They wanted Pickett to win the job, and Pickett got hurt, so he couldn't do it. You got to remember, this is a very fluid situation here. They came in, they're basically still struggling from the Deshaun Watson contract. They couldn't add a veteran quarterback who costs anything. The original sin was not letting Shedeur fall the 5th round. It was paying all that money to Deshaun Watson and Deshaun Watson getting hurt. They don't have choices here. I think honestly, Andrew Berry, the GM, did the best with what he could. And obviously, I think you're treating Shedeur differently than any 5th round pick in the history of the game. Like Cam Miller, who's in Vegas.
Right.
Basically, Pete Carroll said, we needed a backup because there's no way we're going to put a guy with no NFL experience out there. That's the rational way to approach a late round quarterback. That's how the NFL has always done it. That's how they always will do it. But Shedeur, for some reason, plays the first snap of the second half in the 3rd preseason game, and that's not good enough. Because, you know what? People just get crazy when Shedeur is on the field or off the field. Can we just be rational about the Cleveland Browns for once?
But Perloff, you know why that's happening, and part of
no, I don't totally understand. I think it's social media mostly. I think it's that people are just angry out there.
No, I'll explain it to you. It's because this is a quarterback who had a lot of success in college, and
there's millions of quarterbacks who've had a lot of success in college that don't do anything in the pros.
But what we were told leading up into this season, and we could blame Dion, we could blame the NFL, we blame whoever. But what we were told was that this was a quarterback who was a 1st round pick.
Wait.
That's what we were told.
We were told. So you're
in
saying
the NFL mock drafts.
Did an NFL team call you and say we're taking this guy in the 1st round?
No, but we looked at mock drafts. And
that is the mock draft. That's to try and get clicks. Like when the NFL.com or ESPN.com puts out a mock draft, they're just trying to get traffic.
But that's not
they're not GMs.
But Perloff, we don't look. I know for the fact the fans don't look at this as okay. I'm gonna read this thing that is nonsense, and they're only doing this to get clicks. No, they're doing it because they're trying to get an assessment of the players that are going to be in the next draft.
I've been an editor on many mock drafts. That's not what you're doing. You're putting out a mock draft to get clicks. That is the main job.
I'm not talking about the people making the mock draft. I'm talking about the readers. You're saying why is there hysteria? I'm telling you because fans were reading mock drafts, listening to Colorado, listening to football experts. It wasn't just mock drafters, too. It was people on TV, people on radio, people who know this game who were saying this guy's going to be a first-round pick. Some people saying this guy was going to be a top 10 pick. His drop was not normal. We don't see guys who were mocked in the first round have a good season, and then we get to the NFL draft and they're in the 5th round. That just doesn't happen. So you say you don't understand. It's like, no, we know why it's happening. Whether it was fair or not is one thing. If he would deserve to be a 5th round pick, that's fine. But you're going to have people that are going to wonder what happened. How did we go from this kid being a 1st round pick to, he has a good season, he does a couple of bad interviews, and all of a sudden he's almost undrafted?
Let me ask you this. If it was another quarterback, not Shedeur Sanders, who was mocked in the 1st round and fell that far, would we pay attention the same way?
No, because
it's not the mock drafts. It's something else.
No, that's not. No, it's not one or the other. It's not because it's a lot of things. Of course, his family name. Of course, his celebrity has part to do with it.
Part.
But, no, it's part. Of course,
okay.
Everything. But it's not. If Shedeur Sanders, we were told before the draft. Listen, he's a good college player, but let's be real. He's a 5th round pick. No, you would not have this hysteria. You wouldn't, because we've had sons of other players who were not particularly to be 1st or 2nd round picks go in the draft and go in the 4th or 5th round, and we just move on. We don't care that Frank Gore Jr. was undrafted or went in the 3rd round or whatever. Like, we don't.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, this is obviously a continuation of the hysteria around Colorado, the most overhyped. I mean, that was the first year of Deion was the most overhyped college year I've ever seen of any program. Because the team production-wise was not where the attention and the celebrity power was. Remember, they started out. They won their first game,
like 4-0.
Yeah,
right?
and all of a sudden, The Rock is on the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, that was Deion's star power. But I mean, listen, there's been a lot of quarterbacks who haven't fallen that far, but. Will Levis fell. Mel Kiper, I think, thought he was going to be the number 1 pick. AaronRodgers fell. He was supposed to be the number 1 pick. Geno Smith who fell. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Nobody cared like they do.
You're naming guys who still went in the 1st or 2nd round.
Yeah, I know, but nobody cared about Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. Like, it's just this is the Shedeur / Deion effect.
Wait a minute, people did care about Aaron Rodgers. That was a huge thing. That was one of the biggest storylines in the NFL for 3 years.
But they were not like there was not all these people advocating you got to get Rodgers in there. I mean, Favre was the most popular quarterback in the NFL and playing at a very, very high level.
But again,
they were just like nobody would. I'm telling you, maybe there was no Twitter. There was not this army of people saying you're treating Aaron Rodgers unfairly. That was not a thing.
It's a continuation of our conversation from yesterday, because what is the difference? You're talking about Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre, multiple-time MVP. You're talking about the Green Bay Packers. Again, there's going to be some.
Well, what about Will Levis?
What do you mean, what about Lil Bud?
I mean, like, nobody cared that he felt like he was just there. Like, nobody paid attention to him.
No, but we definitely were thinking, okay, he's going to get in, though. Like, he's going to be their quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback of the future. But you were saying this idea that people weren't clamoring for these guys to get into the game or to become the future quarterbacks. It's like, yeah, well, when Brett Favre is there and it's the Green Bay Packers, yeah, we give them a lot of rope to think, okay, you know what, maybe they know what they're doing. When it's the Cleveland Browns and we're talking about 40-year-old Joe Flacco or small hands Kenny Pickett, no, I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you know what the hell you're doing.
I'm just talking about your idea that the fact that the mock drafts had it wrong is why fans are so mad now. Like, because the mock drafts they're not a joke, but they're not real. They're kind of loosely reported until the very end when Daniel Jeremiah puts out his final one. Like, that's not like basing something real on a mock draft, especially like mock drafts are coming out now. Like Arch Manning's number 1 in a lot of mock drafts. Like, the guy started 2 games. Like, these are mock drafts.
But even the late ones that you're talking about that have more credence did not happen going in the 5th round. So again, like, this is all we have. We can talk until we're blue in the face about how real or unreal mock drafts are, but the reality is this is where fans are taking their cues.
But the reality
they're looking at what analysis is saying about what's going to happen in the NFL draft. So if they're hearing that Shedeur Sanders is a first-round pick and that's the expectation, and then things don't happen, that's where the conspiracies come in. That's where this guy's getting railroaded, and then we get all these bizarre scenarios about why maybe he didn't go where he was supposed to.
Well, there's only one reality. He went in the 5th round, and the reality now is he's a 3rd-string quarterback with the Cleveland Browns, and that's definitely not going to be good enough for, the second Joe Flacco throws a pick, they're going to call for the backup. The second Dillon Gabriel gets in there, which he probably will because it's Cleveland, all the backups play, it's going to be, let's get Shedeur in there. The second Shedeur gets sacked, it's going to be the lineman's fault. Like, the pattern will continue until the end of time, until Shedeur retires. I'm sorry. It's just, that's just the way we cover Shedeur. All right. We want to hear from you. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. I say now that Kenny Pickett is gone, people should just be satisfied with the way the Browns are handling Shedeur Sanders and just relax and let the season play out. EJ points out that I'm giving way too much credence to the Browns being a functional franchise. He could be right. We see you on the phone lines. We'll get right back to you. More Shedeur Sanders next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie today. Maggie's on vacation, which I'm kind of glad about this angle of it, too, because I have to say nice things about the Las Vegas Raiders right now. And if you listen to our show, Maggie's been on the Raiders since the day Tom Brady announced that he was going to be involved. He's a 5% owner, I believe, or 10%. And Maggie, of course, is a Buffalo Bills by talking about how that left space for Shedeur Sanders. But on the Vegas side, this is a kind of a win-now move. Like, they didn't want to have Cam Miller be the backup after Aiden O'Connell got hurt. So it shows, again, the Raiders are like, wow, we think we want to win some games here. Like, we don't want to be in next year's 5. Maybe Kenny Pickett will get in there. It feels like they are a serious team right now.
I love what I'm seeing from the Raiders, to be honest. And I didn't expect that either, but I think this shows a sense of urgency that we just haven't seen there. And I know, you could make the argument that this is a team that still lacks some talent in key spots. So should they be a team that's looking to win now? But they've just been losing for so many years. They've been in a perpetual rebuild. So the idea that they're going to come into the season saying, listen, like, we want to win. We think Geno can do this. But if he gets hurt or something happens, we don't want to be a situation where it's like, well, we're just going to throw in the towel. And I think that's a message to not just the fans, but also that locker room to say that, hey, we're in this to win this, and we're serious about turning this thing around. So I think just from a morale standpoint, that was a good move.
You know, it's funny. I saw a clip yesterday with Matt Ryan and Tony Romo. We're doing some press for CBS, and they were talking about Brock Bowers being Tony Gonzalez, who Matt Ryan had, and Jason Witten, who Tony Romo had. I'm like, oh, that's a great point. And you know what? I didn't think a tight end could lead the offense, but Tony Gonzalez sure did. I mean, then he got Julio. But, I think that's a really good sign. But let's get back to the Cleveland side of this. So Pickett is gone. That means their depth chart is Joe Flacco, number 1, Dillon Gabriel, number 2, we presume, and Shedeur Sanders, number 3. I think this is just fine. Let Shedeur develop some more. He's coming out of, apparently, according to their GM, a much different offense. So let the guy just learn how to play in the NFL. I don't think everyone is on board. I think a lot of people want to see Shedeur right now. All right, let's go to Wayne in Dallas. Wayne, where am I wrong on Shedeur Sanders?
You are wrong all the way. First of all, EJ is right. Mock drafts are pretty much accurate in the first and second round, with the exception of a few people. So mock drafts with, like, say somebody like, who is the famous guy that always makes the mock draft? He's pretty accurate.
Mel Kiper?
So, Mel Kiper. He's pretty. He didn't get his job the same way you didn't get your job because you was wrong a lot. You got your job for a reason. So I say this to say that this is my real issue, man. I still think I'm finna say this. It's gonna be very controversial. I still think you have a certain powers to be in America that has a problem with a confident black person. I feel if Shedeur was white, I feel if Arch Manning was to be that confident, it wouldn't be taken his way. Like, look at Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. What was the difference in their personality? It was sort of the same. But one, when he was winning, and the prime of his career was being praised for being that way, while the other has always been being crushed. So that's just sort of my take on it. I'm going to let you, I want to listen to you, but my take is I think America still has a problem with a super confident black person that's confident in himself. And if his white counterpart do it, it's flipped and turned around as a great thing. Let me hear what you got to say.
Wait. Well, I was actually going to have, I'm white, EJ is black. If you're listening on the radio, I was going to let you weigh in. But I got it. It is interesting to me that he brought up the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather.
Sure.
That's the first time I've ever had a tweet that caused a political uproar. I don't know if you want to call it political. Remember they fought?
Yes.
That fight was, quote
unquote fought, but yeah.
Quote unquote fought. I tweeted out, I'm like, that was a pretty good job at looking like a boxer for Conor McGregor. I give him a B+. I'm going to give Floyd Mayweather a C- because he was so unentertaining on this. Like Floyd was clearly like propping up Conor McGregor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And basically, for some reason, Joy Reid, the famous political pundit, came after me and she said, "Oh, there we go again. Someone propping up the white man even though he lost." And I think I'm not sure Joy really put a lot of thought into that, but it went crazy viral.
Yeah,
tweet.
not surprising.
And my point was social media sometimes can run too far with those issues. But listen, I definitely think Wayne is onto something. Shedeur's attitude does rub people the wrong way. I'm not naive to that. But what do you think is his overall point? So my take is Wayne. Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong in any way, but I do think that the reality is Shedeur probably wasn't quite as good as we thought coming into the draft, and he does need to develop, and you kind of saw that in the last preseason game. He's got some bad habits from Colorado he's got to get rid of. So there's also a football side. It's not just that he rubbed people the wrong way, but what do you think, EJ?
Yeah, I've said this a bunch, is that I think that when we talk about, race in America and how it relates to sports, oftentimes in a sport like the NFL and football where conformity is basically the most important aspect of a team coming together, at least that's how the NFL feels and how they present it. Someone who is going to be their most authentic self in Shedeur Sanders, which is being brash, is being in your face, is this idea of being a celebrity and being an icon, that is going to make people uncomfortable. What I will say is, with the NFL, what we've seen is they can look the other way on certain things that they really believe that you're going to be a superstar. Like, Cam Newton doing the Superman pose and being as flashy as he was coming out. He wasn't necessarily having Rolexes and stuff because, it was NIL. There wasn't an NIL time. He had to give it to his dad.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a different time. But that was okay because listen, he was 6'5" with a cannon. And he could probably run a 4.4, 4.3. So they're gonna look at all that other stuff on the side and say, listen, we don't care about that. This guy's a superstar. I think with Shedeur, because he's smaller, because he doesn't have the physical traits, they're looking at maybe some of the attitude stuff and saying, he has some talent, but do we really want this in our locker room? And maybe they would overlook that for someone like a Johnny Manziel, as we saw, who was very similar, I think, to Shedeur Sanders. And
I think Johnny was
in some ways even worse because of some of the, he had real drug problems, alcohol problems, obviously. So, and we never heard any of that with Shedeur, but just the flashiness and wanting to be front and center in front of the camera. That player could be drafted in the first round and not have those issues. So there's always going to be that conversation. But with most things in sports, and especially the NFL, the pendulum swings in terms of how good and how physically gifted you are. The more physically gifted you are, the more they're willing to forgive. Yeah. When you're Shedeur Sanders and you're good, but it's not like you won a Heisman. It's not like you went to a big bowl game. It's not like you are a guy again who's 6'5" with a 4.4 40-yard dash. When you're that, they're gonna look at that a different way. They don't want to take that risk.
Well, I mean, Johnny Manziel won the Heisman. He was more successful.
He was a better player. Yeah,
he was more successful in college. I don't even know how good Johnny Manziel was because it got so lost. But I understand what you're saying. I do think it is kind of funny though. It's also by position. Wide receivers are allowed to be outspoken.
Definitely.
Your favorite player of all time, Chad Ochocinco, was very, very entertaining. But then again, Tyreek Hill, who he fell to the fifth round, even though he was a top 30 talent for sure. Yep. So the NFL, even at wide receivers, they look at character. It's a whole calculus of things. Let me ask you a question though. Some people, there was an argument during the draft, as long as we're being real here. Yep. There, people said Shedeur is falling in part because he's a black quarterback, but then everyone's like, well, Cam Ward's going number one. Yeah. So where are we as far as America is with black quarterbacks?
I think what I've said before, again, is that it is different in terms of, again, that authentic self, because there's and this goes beyond, this goes beyond just even quarterback. This is just in America. Right. This is just in any person, right? In order to be the quote unquote prototypical quarterback, I think for what people feel like the NFL is, a lot of times it's saying everything right in the interview, being the team guy, not necessarily pushing yourself forward, but really pushing the team forward. In many ways, a quarterback is seen as kind of like a CEO of an organization. And Shedeur Sanders is in many ways a CEO, Shedeur Sanders. He's very much about self-promotion. Right. He's very much about, himself. And that's how people are, and that's fine. But I think some of that stuff is not as forgiving sometimes if you're a black quarterback. That's just reality. Just a black person, period.
But by that argument, are you saying Cam Ward's not his authentic self?
No, not that he's not his authentic self, but if that is who you want to be, it might not fit with the NFL is what I'm saying. Like Cam Ward, I think is who he is, but I just think that to me, it's sometimes being your authentic self is being Shedeur Sanders, and for a lot of black folks, they relate to that because they see sometimes some of themselves in Shedeur Sanders in terms of what they want out of life, what they want to be in terms of just aspirational, and that was seen as a rejection when he got drafted in the 5th round. That's why it's so personal for a lot of people.
I got a player that fits your dynamic there. Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
If he was black, would he have gone number 1 overall?
I think there's a chance he wouldn't have. I really think some of that stuff off the field and some because remember he also had an arrest
and he planted the flag.
Yeah, planted the flag. I think some of that stuff would have. He already was very unlikable, and some of that stuff would have definitely rubbed people the wrong way. Now the thing about it is these are all individual assessments, right? Like if the Browns really liked him as a player, maybe it would not have mattered. But I definitely feel like some of those quote unquote character concerns that people have with guys coming out of the draft. The conversations definitely, I think, would have been different with Baker Mayfield, no question.
Yeah, I mean, critics say, well, listen, 2 years ago draft, there was 2 quarterbacks. There were 3 black quarterbacks in the top 8 picks.
Yeah.
So obviously the NFL is not scared of black quarterbacks anymore.
I mean, there's a reality that like we definitely have turned the corner when it comes to black quarterbacks in the NFL and college football. I mean, the embrace of the athleticism, the embrace of what they bring upstairs to in terms of their mindsets as well, because there was plenty of stuff when we go back to the racism that it was dealt with when it came to quarterbacks in like the 70s and 80s, things like that. It was that they couldn't process and they couldn't see the field, and none of that stuff really exists quite as much anymore. We see quarterbacks of all races, especially black quarterbacks, who are able to, be a Patrick Mahomes or be a Lamar Jackson, guys who are surgeons out there on the field, So it's definitely a different day and age for sure. But some of these other, things that are on the periphery, they definitely still play a factor, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the factor in Shedeur's case is more the outside noise. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Well, and maybe that's why teams are like, we don't want this outside noise. And I do think like all this hubbub around Shedeur is not helping him get on the field. Ironically, it all hurts him. So people who think they're supporting Shedeur Sanders probably, ironically, are keeping him off the field, but maybe not. I mean, first of all, he's a Browns quarterback. I'm telling you, all 3 guys are going to play in this situation. We're going to see Joe Flacco. We're going to see Dillon Gabriel, and we're going to see Shedeur Sanders. We see you on the phone lines. We have to do some updates, but we'll get to you. We want to hear your takes on Shedeur. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Gordon Damer is here. Gordon, what do you got?
EJ, Perloff, this report is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. Many people's fantasy drafts are already over, so, of course, this would be the perfect time for Terry McLaurin to end his hold-in, get a 3-year contract, $96 million. He'll turn 31 when the extension begins, an age where sometimes receivers start to physically decline, so that's a little
Perloff
interesting
normally
there.
wants to take him out back, as Maggie says.
I do not like post-30 wide receivers. I feel like Terry McLaurin cheated the system somehow, and he's not really that age because he started a little late, right? Like he does not feel. How is he? How old is he? Did you say?
I think he's 30 right now. I think the extension kicks in when he's 31.
Yeah, I feel like he does not have that much wear on his tires. And maybe I'm being totally naive because I love the guy.
Something about him also, I don't know, maybe it's because of just how skilled he is. Something tells me that he will age gracefully even as like a number 2. Like they find a way to get like another number 1 receiver. He'll still have value as a number 2 and still be good. Like kind of like how Reggie Wayne was really good late in his career. Like someone like that.
Also, he was a rookie at 24, which is really late for a wide receiver. Yeah. He was in that crazy crowded Ohio State room, and he was actually considered. A lot of people thought he was going to be a special team stud, and he has really turned it around. But that's a lot of money. We're talking later about Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. They're paying a lot of money for Terry McLaurin. So, anyway, what's next, Gordon?
Commanders got a deal done. So, how about the Cowboys, right? Micah Parsons, the whole thing there. Dak Prescott is not too concerned.
People can take it however they want. I think it's kind of part of the way guys think and see things around here. I don't always hear a lot, but I actually did hear DeMarcus Lawrence talking about it, and I think he hit it on the head of, like, when you're here in this organization, this is just how you see things are done, whether they're right, wrong, or whoever has their view about them. But what I think that does help is allow us to just stay focused on our jobs and us understanding that us putting energy toward any of that doesn't help.
All right.
I mean, that's kind of a damning statement, right? Because Marcus Lawrence all offseason was like, I mean, he was getting after, Micah Parsons, getting after like the culture in Dallas, and basically, Dak. I don't know if he meant to kind of co-sign some of the stuff, other stuff that he has said, but I feel like that's kind of a co-sign that this is how things are, and whether you like it or not, like we have to overcome that, and like there's an understanding that this is what comes with that. But I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence has always looked at that Dallas locker room and felt like they were going like in a copacetic kind of way, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the entire Cowboys experience is in a valley right now because the documentary, it was really entertaining. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, I'm not finished yet.
Yeah.
I'm just getting to the good part where they start to stink.
But the funny thing is, the
I like
reaction
that
was
part
not
too.
what I think Jerry Jones wanted out of the documentary. Most takes, including my own, were, oh my God, this feels like we're being sold a bunch of lies, and they do not know how to run a team. And that has really been, because of the salary cap era, they just do not have it. And I think that to me is like, I'm still stuck on that. I'm like, wow, Jerry is really doesn't know how to do this. I kind of fooled myself into thinking because they had a bunch of 12-5 seasons that they were a little more professional than they are. But the documentary reveals that Jerry is running on emotion.
The documentary also, if Jerry had not been friends with Jimmy Johnson the way he was, all the things that people said about when Jerry bought the team, about him being a clown and this thing and that thing, they all would have been true because we have the last 30 years to judge that there would not have been the success early on. The success early on turned around the perception, at least in the beginning.
Well, okay, I had a long discussion about this, though. It wasn't just Jimmy. It was also that they could pay up a little bit for some of these players. Like
Jimmy
they paid
coming
for
from
Deion.
college, Jimmy coming from college had scouted all these guys. If Jimmy had not been there,
I don't know. I think Jerry might have been able at that point buy a team. The cap started in 94.
Yeah.
And then in 96, they said, well, a lot of guys had arrests, but they're also like, well, we couldn't afford to keep this guy, that guy. And they could afford it. They just had to get under the cap, and their talent level went down. So I don't know if it's just Jimmy. I think there's a lot of cap problems in this whole thing, too, because we watch Jerry and the Cowboys screw up the cap in real time right now.
But I also think that's an interesting thing that Gordon brings up to me, which is that, like, is Jerry kind of a prisoner of his own success? Like this idea that, like, we look at the Cowboys as this utter clown show when you just mentioned they just came off 3 straight 12-win seasons before just having one down season where their quarterback got hurt. And we look at them like we had how many callers yesterday say that they remind them of the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns have had literally zero success, like basically no playoffs, very few winning seasons when they clearly are apples and oranges. That early dynasty, him coming in and having so much early success and having to reach that level again, I think is part of the reason why he's looked at so negatively because he's come nowhere close to that.
And he had a hand in at least the public breakup of the coach who won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right.
But said he could get 500 guys who could coach the team.
Is there any doubt, though, right now, like the chaos that was right there in 1994, I believe, like that's still there? I mean, you see it. Yeah, I mean, this. I've been kind of defending them this summer because I'm like, well, eventually they sign Dak, eventually they sign CD, eventually they'll sign Micah Parsons, but it's getting harder and harder to defend them.
I'll be honest. I know you said and Maggie's been kind of claiming the take of the year with the Drought Buster. I felt like I saw a lot of people retweeting you. Like, I think you had one of the takes of the year when you said that, like, part of the reason why Jerry's so hell-bent on the soap opera being their way of success is because he forgot how to win.
Yeah, it's the best he's got.
Yeah, like this is what he has, and he's good at this. Like, to be fair, he's very good at making the Cowboys into a circus. That is the one thing he knows how to do very well.
He's the Jimmy Johnson.
Yes, in many ways he is. And in a lot of ways, this is him overcompensating because he can't actually figure out how to win in this era, and I think that that's absolutely what's happening.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's also funny. I feel like in the last couple of days, everyone who's closer to the situation, Chris Collinsworth on with Dan Patrick saying that he expects Micah to be there. I feel like that cut kind of tells you that Dak is not buying into the noise surrounding that Micah's not going to be there early on in the season as well.
Yeah, no, man.
Do you see a picture also?
Which, by the way, because the Eagles play them in week 1, I'm paying close on a Thursday. Close attention. Time has run out.
And this was a Dole Kleiman tweet, so apologies if somehow this was some clickbait. But did you guys see Micah Parsons' mom taking the pictures with Jerry Jones? I think before the preseason game.
No.
I was like, first of all, I was surprised Micah's mom was at a preseason game, considering his son is not going to play whether he was holding in or not. And the fact that he is in a contract dispute, very chummy interaction. It was on video. Like, But Jerry goes up and be like, your son tells me I got to give him a lot of money. And they just start laughing. And he's like, let's take some pictures. And they take a bunch of pictures. And I'm like, am I being worked here? Is this all a show? Is this all a sham?
Michael, why aren't you out there playing?
Well, probably. I mean, listen.
You act like you want some money or something.
Well, I mean, what's happened, obviously, we spent all this time talking about Terry McLaurin not getting paid, Trey Hendrickson not getting paid. They get paid. So you could be getting work. Thank you, Gordon. All right, we want to get back to the Cleveland Browns situation. Kenny Pickett traded last night. What does that mean for Shedeur Sanders? See you on the phone lines. We'll get you to next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Are you happy now, Cleveland Browns fans or Shedeur Sanders fans? Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie. Kenny Pickett is gone, which means you have a quarterback room with Joe Flacco, Dillon, Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. So Shedeur will presumably get a shot. A lot of people are upset. He didn't get enough time in the third preseason game. Now there's time. Listen, EJ, I don't know if this is all going to amount to anything. They could be 3-14 and draft a quarterback next year. That's probably the most likely. We should put up that poll. What's more likely, that either Flacco, Gabriel, or Sanders is pretty good, or they go 3-14 and draft a quarterback next year? Because that's probably what's going to happen here.
And that's why this whole thing also, I hate it for both of these guys. That's why I keep mentioning Gabriel and Sanders. I just feel like we know what's going to happen, because I don't think either guy's going to go in there and light it up and be Browns QB of the future. So these guys are basically on a 1-year tryout. And then the QB of the future for real comes in next year, and they're the guy. Yeah,
it could be. All right, let's go to the phone lines. I want to hear your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. All right, Jay, I know you're listening. What do you think about the Browns QB situation?
Man, it's kind of funny. We were on TikTok. You know, TikTok, they be hosting their own sports show on TikTok, which is funny as I don't know what. It'd be like 8 to 10 people arguing with each other at the same time. But this is funny as I don't know what. But somebody said this was going to happen yesterday during the daytime before it even came on TV.
Oh, Pickett?
I don't know how
they knew about Pickett?
Yeah, they knew about Pickett. This is like at 1 o'clock in the daytime yesterday. And I'm sitting there like, oh, man, you ain't got that much clout. And then I wake up and it actually happened. So, like, yeah, there's some insiders on TikTok. But what I feel about the situation, first of all, like, you know what I said like last week, like everybody chill out. You know what I mean? Quit, you know. I mean, this is stuff that don't put food on your table. You know, everybody making social issues out of it or whatever. And I always say, you know what I mean? They kind of they screwed themselves. Nobody's bigger than the Shield. And the thing about it, the Shield, if you got any kind of social issues or anything like that, the Shield doesn't want to deal with, they'll make an example out of you. Look what happened to Tim Tebow.
Jay, let me ask you a question. You say no one's bigger than the Shield. Deshaun Watson got in all kinds of trouble, and he still got a $200 million plus contract. So it feels like, in a sense, his talent was bigger than the Shield. So what I'm kind of getting is, if you're talented enough, you can be bigger than the Shield.
No, the Browns' stupidity was bigger than the Shield in that case.
Fair.
That's what that was, man. But I mean, the people, you know, we're still talking about black quarterbacks and stuff like that. It's like, dude, let that go. Yeah, we know everybody had to do. You know, nothing's gonna be perfect. You know what I mean? The thing about it, you just got to be like a higher human being and just sidestep that. You know, let me put a Barry Sanders move on people like that. You know what I mean? And don't cry about it. Keep it moving. You know what I mean? And I hate to quote Puffy, but can't stop, won't stop. You know, keep it moving. But like I said last week, the kid's going to be all right. He's going to land on his feet. And then on top of that, you know, like I said, he's like a cat you throw off the third floor of a building. He's still going to land on his feet. So, like, let the cars fall where they may. You know, and it's good that he gets to sit. We were arguing about that on TikTok. Like, the NFL got out of, because I remember the old days, I remember Mike Vick had to sit for a year. AaronRodgers sat for a long time, stuff like that. And it was like, that's what made these quarterbacks more successful back in the day. But ever since Ben Roethlisberger came out and blew out, you know, just totally, just manhandled this rookie season, we're going to put everybody out there on the first year. And I think the NFL needs to get away from doing that.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, no, some good points in there.
Definitely.
Yeah. Listen, Patrick Mahomes had a year, but the norm is to play guys immediately now. Shedeur will land on his feet. He will play in the NFL. I'm totally confident that he did.
I think so, too. Yeah, I think so, too. And I thought Jay made a great point in the fact that, something that I think a lot of folks, grow up hearing, which is you got to learn how to play the game. There's this idea that, Shedeur – because one thing I don't like sometimes about the narratives is that, this Shedeur was an innocent bystander to him getting somehow railroaded. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying that because I don't feel that way. To me, he clearly screwed up the interview process because I think that there were teams who were interested in taking him early in the draft and they wanted to see kind of what he was about. And he had to go in there and he had to show that whatever fears or concerns teams had about him, that they didn't have to worry about that. And there's, whether it's fair or unfair, because we could talk about that till we're blue in the face again, that's the reality sometimes, that you have to humble yourself or you have to, play the game, so to speak, in order to get what you want. And Shedeur obviously wanted to be drafted higher, and I think him and his team thinking that they can call their shot, it hurt him. It ended up being a detriment. So I think that Jay makes a great point. We can talk about some of the inequities and all, but at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Do you want to actually rise above those inequities, or do you want to let those, kind of impact you negatively? And I think that in many ways, he did himself no favors with how he handled the combine and the whole draft process.
Yeah, well, he's got a whole different set of things going on because Deion Sanders is his dad that nobody else faces. All right, coming up next, Bengals are all in. Will it result in a deep playoff run? Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right. Welcome in, Maggie and Perloff Show. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie. We spent the first hour talking about how the Cleveland Browns may or may not know what they're doing. Let's go to another Ohio team that may or may not know what they're doing. The Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, man, when you actually put it like that, that is not a good thing. Yesterday, Cincinnati gave pass rusher Trey Hendrickson a huge salary bump for this season. He goes from $15 million to about $30 million, up to $30 million. So they have Trey Hendrickson. They'll have him on the field. You get a little bit of an all-in vibe because they paid up big time for their two receivers, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Yep.
Obviously, they have Joe Burrow. They needed Hendrickson. Their defense was already very, very bad last year. If they had taken away their best player, then it would have been way worse. I still think the defense is bad. But to me, this makes no sense. So they spent all offseason going through this drama, and this is all they came up with is 1 year, $30 million. They have no security on the next year. And apparently they don't like to guarantee more than 1 year anyway.
Right.
But what is all this drama about? He's going to hit free agency, according to all the reports, next year. They're going to end up getting a third-round pick for him. Mm-hmm. Like, why did we wait all this time? Just do that in April. Apparently they've been working on this deal for 3 years, and that's all they came up with, EJ? It feels like a joke to me.
Yeah, no, beyond. I was ready to come in and slam the Bengals had they not been able to come up with a deal before week 1 for Trey Hendrickson. But I kind of like this, which is kind of crazy. I can't believe I'm saying that about the Cincinnati Bengals. But listen, Trey Hendrickson. If you listen to the show enough, I've talked about how much I think Trey Hendrickson has been one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He's super underrated. I do feel like that cliff could be coming soon, though, for him. And he is a little bit on the older side.
30.
And, yeah, and you talk about paying pass rushers past 30. How many elite years of production are you going to get? I'm not sure with him. Like, I think you're probably looking at a maybe 2 to 3 year window where he could still be elite. Definitely maybe 2. And if that's the case, I kind of like the idea that maybe you can get him locked in for this season. I hope that he doesn't deal with any kind of injuries or soft tissue stuff. Those are always the things I hate the most about these hold-ins, is that teams allow this thing to prolong more than they have to. Then the guy ends up missing 3 weeks because he pulls a hamstring. If they're able to avoid that, I think you're going to get a good Trey Hendrickson season because he's going to want to get paid in this offseason. And it kind of puts everyone on notice that this is an all-in year. I think the Bengals, and what we talked about a lot during this entire offseason, is they've been so unserious in the previous years when it came to contract situations, how they handled the preseason. They acted like a team that had a Super Bowl pedigree without a Super Bowl ring. And I think what we're seeing is they're saying that we're going all in on this season, and if things don't work out, big changes are coming. Coaching staff could be moved. With maybe some of these skill player guys, maybe not Jamar Chase, but maybe a T. Higgins. He's really on kind of, I know he could sign a long-term deal, but really it's 2 years in terms of real guaranteed money.
They actually could move on after this year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he may be out there in terms of a guy they may shop to get more pieces. Like I like the idea that everyone's being put on notice and that this year is being circled as the year for the Bengals, because while the AFC is difficult and tricky, and I do not believe in their defense, when you have Joe Burrow and you have the players that they have, there are no excuses in terms of getting it done. They have to find a way to get back into the postseason and make a real noise, because the talent on the opposite side doesn't justify them missing the playoffs 2 years in a row. It's ridiculous.
You know, the famous all-in season, the most recent one was the Los Angeles Rams went all-in, traded for Matthew Stafford.
Cowboys.
Yeah, well, the
fake
all-in.
We're
all in. No, the real all-in season was the Rams. But the Rams added an amazing player from the outside. The Cincinnati Bengals are keeping a player from a defense that was in the bottom 10 in the league last year. Like, they're just getting back to par. They're not all in. They're avoiding total disaster. But you look at their depth chart on defense, and it's just not good in any possible way. They basically, obviously, you and I randomly big Jesse Bates fans.
I know.
He's at Atlanta. They let him go. They let Jermaine Pratt this offseason go, who's playoff Pratt.
I didn't understand that.
Very solid player for them linebacker. Their linebacker core now is Demetrius Knight, Logan Wilson, and Oren Burks. I don't know about that. Their defensive backfield, all you need to know is just the different names that they're going to call penalties on them if they happen to match up with the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Chiefs are going to torch these guys. And now they have to get after the quarterback with Hendrickson. They drafted Shamar Stewart. He got a late start.
Yep.
And he's a guy who didn't need a late start because he only had 4.5 sacks out of college.
Yeah.
This is a very dicey defensive situation. You know, they have a new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, gone. He had a bad year last year.
Yes.
I think it was more personnel. I think this is a team management thing on the defensive side of the ball. So that puts a lot on Joe Burrow. And I think Maggie and I have been circling around this a lot. Like, is Cincinnati so dysfunctional that Joe Burrow would want to leave at his peak? Never, ever, ever happens with elite quarterbacks except for Carson Palmer leaving.
Right.
And what team did he leave? Cincinnati.
Yep.
Most often, an elite quarterback gets paid a lot. They build around him. He stays for 10 to 15 years, and then he might have some other jumping around at the end of his career, like AaronRodgers. Russell Wilson was in Seattle for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that most times Joe Burrow would have a decade plus in Cincinnati, but he might look around. If this season goes bad, I think, as you mentioned, like, there's going to be real turmoil around that building.
And when you mention that, it reminds me that I actually owe Joe Burrow an apology, because I've been the one this offseason feeling like I have not liked that he has gotten involved in these contract situations. I was like, who's the GM? Is it Joe Burrow? Because he's saying, hey, this is how you could sign this guy, and this is how you could sign that guy. And my thing was, listen, I know the Bengals organization is not necessarily one you would have confidence in dealing with these situations, but I felt he was putting his thumb on the scale as someone who's not a player personnel guy in terms of how it was what was best fit to kind of move the Bengals forward. Well, Joe Burrow got everything he wanted. He said there was a way to bring in Higgins, and that happened. And he said, listen, they're going to bring in Higgins, but I think there's still a way they can get Trey Hendrickson. I thought he was out of his mind, and he was right.
Yep.
But now what happens is no excuses. We could talk about how dysfunctional, how bad the Bengals situation is, but basically the blueprint that Joe Burrow laid out for everyone when he did the Bustin' with the Boys podcast has been put into fruition. So now, Joe Burrow, I don't want to hear about bad defense. I don't want to hear about we didn't play in the preseason, because you guys did play in the preseason. You've got to get it done. In many ways, this season, I think, is a referendum on him. He has to find a way to get this team over the top. I'm not saying win a Super Bowl, but you can't miss the playoffs. And when you get there, I do think you got to make some noise.
That's not the narrative at all with the Bengals. It's not a referendum on him.
Why?
It's a referendum on their defense, because he's going to be awesome, because he's always awesome. He's Joe Burrow. And not only is he Joe Burrow, he's throwing to Jamar Chase, the best receiver in the NFL. And T. Higgins is underrated. He's a top 10 receiver. He's amazing. Their offense is going to be great. The problem is going to be the defense. So why is that Joe Burrow's fault?
Because Joe Burrow took the reins when it came to team building.
Oh, come on.
He did. Because he's
not the GM, he's the quarterback.
I don't think they wanted to pay T. Higgins, and I don't think they wanted to pay Trey Hendrickson.
Well, that's crazy on both sides.
I think if it was up to them, I think they would have wanted to pare this thing down and kind of do like a reset year and then go after it in 2026.
No. They're never going to go after it. They're the Bengals.
No, but they have no money. They have no cap situation. But the pressure that Joe Burrow put on them to make sure they re-sign these guys, even though it seemed to be clear as day that they definitely had to trade T. Higgins. Like, I'm shocked that he's back. But now that he got what he wanted, this is this was the blueprint he put together for the Bengals to be a winner this year. You can't go out there and be a loser. I'm sorry, it can't happen.
Well, here's the thing. T. Higgins is actually quite a team-friendly deal. Like they did it.
Yeah, it was a decent deal. Yeah.
I think you're underestimating T. Higgins. Like, that is not a guy you easily let walk out the building. He is, I mean, first of all, everyone's going nuts for George Pickens in Dallas. Like, T. Higgins is like that, except a good teammate. So I think T. Higgins is awesome. We disagree on that. The problem is obviously the defense. I mean, look at the stats last year. Joe Burrow had 43 touchdowns and just 9 picks, and they didn't make the playoffs. Well, how is that on Joe Burrow?
I mean, he played great, but at the end of the day,
the same thing's going to happen this year.
But at the end of the day, we do look at wins as a quarterback stat.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I don't like this idea that these games that were lost were just lost in a vacuum. It was purely
they were lost because of special teams and defensive gaffes and all sorts of weird things.
But we point to Joe Burrow's numbers and say, well, he played well, and he did. He put up big numbers, but he's playing in high-scoring games. He's playing in games where teams are, quite frankly, playing with a lead. So therefore, they're going to allow some stuff. They're not going to send the house and stuff. They're going to allow him to kind of play prevent and kind of pick apart some of these teams. So he put up these gaudy numbers because, in part, the style of play that the Bengals found themselves in because that defense was so bad. Well, so I agree that the Bengals defense is a problem. My point is, if the Bengals had a different route in how they wanted to do this thing, how they wanted to rebuild this team, that was taken off the table as soon as Joe Burrow opened his mouth. So now that he did open his mouth, I can't now then, if they struggle this year or they lose, say, well, this was just all on the Bengals. No, Joe Burrow wanted them to take this path.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. If T. Higgins left and Joe Burrow didn't advocate for him, what's to stop you from saying, well, Joe Burrow should have advocated for them? Like, you're putting way too much on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's got to play quarterback. Yes, you say things.
Then why is he getting involved in contract
So would you have ripped him if they let T. Higgins? You probably would have said, well, Burrow should have said more to keep his star receiver if the offense took a major step back without him.
No, you know why? Because I watched Patrick Mahomes just let Tyreek Hill go off the building. He said, "Oh, well, that's it," and he just moved on. I watched Josh Allen watch Stephon Diggs just go out the door, and he was like, "Oh, we're just gonna move on. We're gonna just figure this thing out." And you know what that allowed those teams to do? It allowed those teams to reset their defenses. It allowed those teams to reset their rosters in a way that wasn't paying one receiver so much money. By the way, T. Higgins is a luxury. We're not talking about him being those guys were wide receiver ones. This is a wide receiver two. He's a luxury to have, and he's a great player. I really like T. Higgins. I just drafted him in my fantasy draft, so I don't want to I don't like him. But he's a luxury piece that, quite frankly, we know they don't need. They have a good offense. What the problem they have is defense. The problem they have is depth. They're not going to be able to address that if they're going to keep paying top dollar to every star on the roster, which is what they've done. They're paying Trey top dollar this year. They're paying Joe Burrow top dollar. He didn't take a pay cut. And they're paying now Jamar Chase top dollar. So where are they getting his depth from? It's putting so much pressure on their drafts. And as we've seen with the Bengals in recent years, they haven't drafted that well.
Let me ask you this. The Eagles paid Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. If you pay in advance, you can get away with a lot of this. The problem is the Bengals are letting it go way too long.
That's fair.
The other thing, too, I disagree with, he was just doing this against prevent defenses. He played really well against the Chiefs in week 2, and they had a field goal at the end. Game. Yeah, and then Chiefs are a great defense. Chiefs only lost one regular season. They lost 2, but one they were trying. He was good in good games. Then Baltimore, remember, he took him to overtime. The Chiefs game was the pass interference.
Yeah. They should have won that game.
Because it was an undrafted rookie playing in a critical spot. Baltimore, they missed a field goal. They blew that game. There's so many games where Joe Burrow did enough to win. So I think to put that on him just because he's advocating for his guys. Listen, ultimately, this is a team whose leadership at the top is all messed up. Mike Brown keeps saying the wrong things about contracts. They should officially let Duke Tobin run the thing. There are all sorts of structural, contractual problems. We've been comparing the Browns to the Cowboys. The reality is the Bengals also have some Cowboys elements. They're letting their contracts play out way too long. You got to pay guys earlier. That being said, I can't wait to watch them play this year.
They're
Cleveland,
one of the more intriguing
Cincinnati
teams,
week 1. I mean, because it's Cincinnati. It's Cleveland. Who knows if we've been talking all day about Cleveland's backups. Yeah, we might see them in week 1 against Cincinnati. That is going to be a huge game because Cincinnati never wins their opener. They're always start off slow. They played their starters in the preseason. Will they come out and whoop on the Browns?
And that's going to be an interesting thing because, not to spoil next week when you guys are going to be doing your big predictions for the NFL season, but I think both of us are kind of down on the Bengals in terms of being a playoff team, in terms of making a lot of noise. I think that's one place where we agree, where they did all of this stuff. And like I said, I do think they've gone all in some ways. I think you have to be, if you're a Bengals fan, excited for this season because all your stars are back. But with that being said, they're still playing in a bear that is the AFC. You still got to deal with the Chiefs. You still got to deal with the Ravens in your division. We'll see what the Steelers are. They're kind of like this mystery. I don't think they're that great, but maybe they turn the clock back with Rodgers and Tomlin, and maybe they are a solid team. So they're in a really deep conference that's going to really test that defense early. I know they're going to be able to have some earlier games that are scheduled out will be favorable, but once the schedule picks up, we're going to learn real fast whether or not these Bengals are for real.
Well, one reason I think they played their starters in the preseason is because they open up with Cleveland, Jacksonville, and at Minnesota. They need to come out at least 2-1 out of that because then it gets brutal.
It's crazy.
At Denver, Detroit, at Green Bay, Pittsburgh, New York. That's a little reprieve. Chicago reprieve. At Pittsburgh, at Baltimore, at Buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh man,
they cannot afford to get to one of these 1-4s, 1-5s. That if they do that, they are dead in the water.
Absolutely, and then we're going to see some real sort of, I think, havoc behind the scenes.
Definitely,
because you point out like all the issues they've been having. Should be a team to watch. All right, coming up next, Aaron Rodgers. We haven't done any Aaron Rodgers in a week. What's wrong here? What's going on? Is the universe off its axis? I don't think we've mentioned the name Aaron Rodgers.
It sounds like a utopia to me, to be honest.
Well, I got bad news for you then, because we're going to bring back Mr. Rodgers, who's making more comments. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. Might have had a little audio glitch there. Apologize for that. EJ Stewart is in for Maggie Gray today. Maggie's on vacation. She'll be back later in the week. She's just actually been texting me. She's following all of the Cleveland Browns drama. Are we live, by the way?
We're good.
Okay.
We're live.
So she is following all of it. She will weigh in on Thursday. The latest news is Kenny Pickett is traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. That means that the QB room looks like Joe Flacco, number 1, probably Dillon Gabriel, number 2, Shedeur Sanders, number 3. So you can weigh in on that, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. EJ, it's been a little while since we've heard from our buddy AaronRodgers. So Aaron yesterday gave a press conference, or I don't know where he gave an interview, but it was with Adam Shine, our buddy Adam Shine at Sirius Radio, and he said that the Jets game, the upcoming Jets game, is just another game for him. Now,
probably nowhere near where it might be made out. A lot has changed over there, coaching staff-wise, player-wise. Obviously, I have friendships over there, but it's one game out of 17, and at 5 o'clock Eastern on that Sunday, it's only getting me on to the next game. So that's just the way it is.
So a couple things out of that. EJ, you are a Jets fan.
Yes.
Do you believe that AaronRodgers is not looking at this game any differently than any other game? Week 1, of course, 1 p.m. Oh, and also, can you believe that AaronRodgers by 5 o'clock is ready to move on to the next game? Assuming it ends up, what if it's overtime? It goes to 4:48 or something. That's the two things that struck me. Do you buy that AaronRodgers is viewing the Week 1 game against the Jets as any other game?
No, of course I'm not buying that. And listen, to be fair to AaronRodgers, I think that's the answer he has to give. I think you have to give that this is just another game. I'm not worried about who's on the other side. I just want to go out there and win. But like AaronRodgers always does, he always has to take it to the extreme. It can never be just the normal answer. So he can't just say, nope, I got a lot of friends out there. I love those guys. But at the end of the day, this is just another game. He has to go to, I won't think about this game once 5 p.m. hits, it's going to be all over. We know that that's a lie. I mean, come on. We don't, again, one of the things that annoys people about AaronRodgers is it feels like he insults our intelligence so much. And then he will come back and be like, what did I do? Why are you guys so mad at me? I didn't do anything wrong. AaronRodgers spent half of his Pat McAfee interview when he was revealing that he was probably going to go to the Steelers talking about how badly he was treated by the Jets. It was about how Aaron Glenn treated him, how he was kicked out the door.
Oh, you mean in the offseason, not when he was there?
No, yeah, in the offseason, right? Before he officially signed, but he kind of intimated that, Pittsburgh, he has a lot of love for Mike Tomlin and all that stuff. Half that interview was spent, slamming the Jets, which, again, he has his reasons for doing that, so I have no problem with him wanting to do that. But then to come back now that we're headed to week 1 and say, I'm not going to think about this game after 5 p.m., I mean, that's ridiculous. And it's the idea that he's been doing this his whole career. Again, this is a guy who remembers the high school, friend that said he couldn't make it to the NFL, and we'll talk about him today. I mean, he's like Michael Jordan in that regard. Like he never forgets, his grudges. He's not somebody that is a forgiving person or not somebody who can get over things easily. So this idea that Aaron Rodgers is going to be kumbaya after this game and he's not going to think about the result in any way is laughable.
Well, here's a couple things. One, I do think players move on much faster than fans. I do think actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a long season and it's week 1, and I think there is some reality to what Rodgers said. I do think by 5 o'clock, a lot of guys are like getting into logistics, and kind of have to. But even if you have a bad game, to survive as a pro, you have to be able to shut the door on that immediately and move on to the next one. Secondly, I kind of don't think the Jets game means that much to him. I know that sounds weird. I just think that for some reason, and I think he was not lying, like the people that he's mad with the Jets are who, the Johnsons or something? Or one of the Johnsons. Woody, not Chris.
He does not like Woody, he likes Chris.
Right. I just think that he's got so many grudges around the NFL right now that even the Jets do not stand out particularly. I don't think it means what you think it does to him. I think that Aaron Rodgers is looking at the season. I think he feels pressure to produce against everybody, not just the Jets. For some reason, something about what he was saying rings true. I don't know that the Jets are such a big deal to him. I mean, he was there for 2 years, kind of. He was there for a year and change because he was out with the Achilles injury. I just don't know that it really made such an impact on him. I don't think he's going to look back on his career and really think much about the Jets personally.
But Perloff, what part of his career or his life leads you to believe that Aaron Rodgers easily lets things go? I mean, there's almost nothing, right? Like
but he's got 17 games here to focus on people that he presumably has grudges against. You really think the Jets are number 1 on that list? Probably.
Yeah, because it's the most
barely.
recent. No, it's the most recent. It's the one that he has talked about the most as one that bothered him. Like, you don't talk about something unless it bothers you. Like he and Aaron Rodgers definitely does feel to be this guy. He's the guy to be like, I'm not saying that I care, but like that's kind of what that whole interview was with Pac McAfee talking about the Jets. He's that guy.
He's got to keep saying like, I don't want any personal attention, but I'm going to do 1,700 podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. So if it didn't bother him, he wouldn't have even went down that road. Clearly, it did bother him. And again, there's a lot of things about stepping onto the MetLife field in week 1 for him too. Because remember, that's also the field when his first Jet game. Step on the field in week 1, he tore his Achilles.
Oh boy!
So again, this idea that this has no significance to him, there's no way that's true because of how it ended with the Jets and how his Jet career went, especially how week 1s have gone at MetLife. It's historically gone really terrible for him, and it's a traumatic incident. And I hope to God that does not happen to him again. And I know he doesn't want that to happen again either. But the idea that he's not thinking about any of this, I mean, come on.
It is funny. So you got Aaron Rodgers going back to the Jets. You'd think that'd be the premier game. The NFL stuck it at 1 o'clock on Sunday. At the time when they made the schedule, Aaron Rodgers hadn't signed yet. So,
right.
But even so, nobody's picking either of these teams to do anything. Nobody. Aaron Rodgers is there, but if there's a single expert or analyst who picks the Steelers to win the Super Bowl, I'd be beyond shocked. So it does kind of feel like expectations are kind of down for both teams. So this game will exist in a bit of a vacuum. I got to tell you, we were talking about it earlier. I think the Cincinnati-Cleveland game will honestly get more attention.
I disagree with that. I think that the Steelers, people may not be picking them to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl, but I do think there are a lot of eyeballs that want to see how this thing works.
Remember when Aaron Rodgers ran out with the flag in the Jets game? The game, there was so much hype around that game. Then there was 70% less for year 2. Now there's 70% less off of last year as Aaron Rodgers gets older, and everyone knows Arthur Smith is his offensive coordinator, and I don't think we're going to see fireworks in Pittsburgh because they want to play conservatively. I just don't think the hype is there.
You could have fooled me when I watched that last Pat McAfee interview he did when they were at Steelers camp. I thought they were throwing a Super Bowl parade. He got fans throwing the terrible towels and swinging them. Mike Tomlin being like, "Oh, you're damn right. This is a different year than this year." I've never seen Mike Tomlin smile that much in an interview in my entire life. I've watched Mike Tomlin for most of my adult life, and he was cheesing and grinning, being like, "This is the year." Aaron Rodgers gets the hero welcome that we all kind of expected he wanted, and he really got. Maybe the outside world doesn't necessarily believe they have Super Bowl expectations, but I think people, because of how they're acting, want to see how this thing's going to go.
Actually, I totally disagree with that because I watched a bunch of NFL Network interviews, and when the NFL Network came in, Mike Tomlin's like, "Yeah, we want to play sound football." Pat McAfee, a true Yinzer, gets in there. I think it was
blame it on Pat McAfee.
That was the McAfee effect. McAfee's like, "We're gonna be awesome," and Tomlin gets up there like, "Yeah, we're totally gonna be awesome." He did a million other interviews where he was just totally like, "Yes, we hope to have a sound fundamental defense." He got on McAfee and he was like a pro wrestler. So that was a lot of McAfee too. I just got to be honest.
I love that Pat McAfee has the power of hypnosis.
Well, he's a Pittsburgh. He's the Pittsburgh guy. It's not hypnosis. You get on a Pat McAfee, you got to bring it like that. Like those guys are legit Pittsburgh fans.
This is funny. Like anybody that can go on a Pat McAfee show, they just turn into a professional wrestler. They just start cutting promos.
You're a big wrestling guy. You know McAfee knows what he's doing when it comes to hype.
We need to find a way to get Pat McAfee to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers facility and talk to Shohei, because then maybe Shohei will cut a promo on Ipe and all the stuff he's been on. Because apparently, you get a Pat McAfee show, you start acting a fool. Because that's what the Steelers were doing. They were acting a fool during that situation.
But McAfee is Mr. Pittsburgh, though. So that's exactly why. That's why that was civic pride. He's not going to go to random markets and get this. Well, he probably would. He's not getting Shohei to talk. That's impossible. All right, we see you on the phone lines. We're going to get to some updates first. Here is Gordon Damer.
Guys, plenty of football news yesterday, today. But you know what you might have missed is that the race in the National League East is heating up.
Tagged in the air, deep right center field. This one on the way. Bader back. It is gone. Luis Torrens, 3-run bomb to right center field. What a night for the Mets, who were down 3-0. It is now 10-3 New York in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Yeah, Mets beat the Phillies 13-3. That's the call on Odyssey Mets Radio. They closed to within 6 of the first-place Phils, whose magic number remains at 26.
That's a true pro right there, Gordon, getting that Mets update in there.
You think I would be nervous about this? My experience with the Phillies is winning that division means nothing. Being the wild card in today's baseball game means a lot more. And here's the thing, I'm a Phillies fan. I hate the Mets. Like, if they get in the wild card, they are going to be dangerous. And I know that. You guys don't know that because you're all way too close to the project. Like, Mets, any wild card team is going to be dangerous. And I don't care who wins the division because I've seen the Phillies win the division. I've seen the Phillies go into the LCS with a 3-2 lead and blow it at home.
That was fun.
So I saw last year, the Phillies were awesome all year long and then faded at the end. And there's still so much baseball left.
You know why I think Perloff's saying this, though? I think it's because he knows these Mets own the Phillies. Because he's not necessarily, because he's saying, listen, they're going to get in as a wild card. They're going to be dangerous. Because he remember what happened last year when the Mets saw the Phillies. Look, for when I was a teenager, the Phillies owned the Mets, and there was no doubt about that. And even though the Phillies seem to be the more talented team, and they've won the division in these last few years, it feels like for some reason when the Mets see the Phillies, they play with a lot of confidence. So I think some of this is get ready for what may happen in October, where the Mets come in as underdogs again, and they see the Phillies and they win. Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of what's happening.
They were underdogs last year?
Definitely. Yeah.
They were so much better in the last month of the season.
Yeah, they were hotter. They were hotter, but the Phillies.
The Phillies were a disaster by that point.
They were a 500 team.
Yeah, they totally fell apart. And to be honest, that could happen here. There's so much baseball.
I will
left.
say the one thing I will say is nothing reminds you of how much you hate a team like seeing them come to your building and start taking down microphones.
My God.
What was Alec Boehm doing
I get this
last
text,
night?
Gordon. I get this text.
What a loser.
I get this text. Alec Boehm is the biggest loser in Major League Baseball. So I'm actually
intrigued.
I'm actually on Twitter. Then Manny amplifies EJ's original text. And then I go to X to find out like what's going on because I just happen to be on Twitter/X. And I put in Alec Boehm into the search. I'm like, wow, everyone must be killing Alec Boehm. The top and only tweets about Alec Boehm are Manny Rodriguez and EJ Stewart. Not a single other soul in America cared at all about this parabolic lie.
He was trending. He was trending on Twitter last night.
Not when I saw it, but maybe it's because my algorithm just picked up you two guys. But I did not see you were making it sound like a big deal. So the guys there's a glare off
Alec Boehm made it seem like it was a big deal. Wasn't us.
He stopped the game for 15.
Exactly.
You were the only tweets I could find.
He stopped the game for 15 minutes because there was some kind of I don't know what it's called, but I'm just going to say it's a boom mic, so to speak.
Parabolic.
Yeah, you know that word. It's a plastic kind of microphone thing, and it was, I guess, reflecting in the center field. By the way, that microphone has been there since Citi Field has been there.
2009 is when Citi Field opened.
I thought maybe this was a new thing, and even the Mets broadcast, he was trying to give him a benefit of the doubt, being like, oh, it must have been the national guys, because that game was on TNT or TBS last night. And maybe Turner put that up there. But then they looked at old film and like, wait a minute, this has been there the whole time. And of course, this guy goes up there after they were winning 3-0. They were hammering Kodai Senga, only except when runners are scoring position. They're hammering Kodai Senga. Everything looks great. I thought this was going to be a Phillies rout. Then the Mets make a comeback. And then this guy hits in the double play, and he's like, oh, look at center field. Something's reflecting. Like, that was the most loser energy I've ever seen. Alec Boehm, man, come on, man. Get out of here with that.
To get distracted by something 2-foot diameter, 430 feet away while you already play. Is this the Phillies' first time in Citi Field this season, by the way?
No, exactly. They've been playing there for how many years? They played there almost as much as the Mets. They're their division rival.
Can I speak for America
and
when
also
I say...
it took him until the fifth inning to go ahead and come and say something. Why didn't he say something in the first inning, second inning, first at bat? Whatever, dog.
Why on earth do you guys care? This is one of the many details of baseball. This is the biggest non-story that ever was. Gordon, who's been scouring the news, had no idea this happened.
No, I did know it happened. I was going to save it for something a little later.
Oh, you were going to get into Alec Boehm?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a
I was trying to find audio that was, kind of captured...
I mean,
a little bit difficult
a
to do.
Cardinals player throws a bat at his coach's face. Like, that is a big deal.
Yes.
I mean, you think like the national storylines are covering Alec Boehm
it is not an awful announcing. So that is the judge of whether or not it's a national story or not.
Get us into some better stories.
This is the dog days of August. You'd feel like this would be the time for a catcher maybe to be slowing down in the season. Not Cal Raleigh.
And the 3-2 on the way to Cal. Swinging a well-hit ball. Deep to left field. Head into the upper deck. Stay fair. Upper deck. Goodbye baseball. Number 50 for Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, one of just 33 players to ever hit 50 home runs in the season. Obviously the first catcher to do so. So
he's going to catch Mantle soon. Most homers for a switch hitter.
Yep.
Then I think he's going to catch Aaron Judge. 2 for that American League record, whatever.
You think he's going to do it?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it's It's August 26th. He just hit 50.
Yeah, so he's got to hit 63, right?
63. Yeah, I mean, he should at this pace. He's hit 3 in his last 3 games. Yeah, he should be able to do it relatively easily.
But we saw when Judge's chase happened that when he got really close, then he started to struggle, and then there was pressure. And Cal Raleigh, the one thing I am interested in, because I actually really like these kind of home run chases because these are pressure moments. He's playing in a he's in a division race, so he's definitely playing some pressure games. But then he has a whole different pressure he has to deal with the chase. And Aaron Judge is a superstar. He is used to having a huge microscope on him anyway. And even he struggled with the home run chase towards the end. I do wonder about Kyle Raleigh, a guy who's been kind of somewhat anonymous, at least to the casual fans of Major League Baseball. Like, what is that pressure going to look like for him, and how does he respond? You could be right. He could go out there and just pass his record and we move on. But I am going to be curious as we get closer. I think the switch hitting record he'll get easily, but I'm very curious.
4 homers away.
Yeah, I'm very curious, though, about that Judge record and what happens when he gets to 59 and 60. Like, he's going to probably have 10 or 11 games left. Will he be able to get there?
Well, I think he's out in Seattle, in the northwest corner of the country. I think it's not as visible as Aaron Judge. So I don't know that it's going to be quite as hyped. And also the other thing, too, is, I tell it's going to be in the middle of football season. I'm not sure. He will feel pressure for sure. I think he could do this quietly. And also, too, that's just, to me, I always said, Gordon, you weren't here for this, but the hype around Aaron Judge for the quote-unquote American League, because nobody wants to recognize Barry Bonds' home run record.
Sure.
So the whole thing, home run records are not what they used to be. They're all kind of shaped by the PED era anyway. So I know they cut into programming for Aaron Judge. EJ, do you think they'll cut into programming for Cal Raleigh?
I think they will. Yeah, I think they're going to treat it exactly the same. I think there's going to be a hypersensitivity as well to the idea that when you did it for the New York guy, you cut in, and then for the Seattle guy, you don't. I think that ESPN and these networks, I don't think they want to have that on their plate too and have to deal with that backlash. So I think they're going to try to treat it exactly the same. I don't know what the reception will be. Like, I think there may be a chance that there will be even more backlash than when they did it with Judge for football fans that just want to watch Ole Miss versus Arkansas being like, I don't care about this, turn this off. But I think they're going to do that just for that sensitivity because they don't want to make it seem like they're doing a New York bias or East Coast bias.
Roger Maris's family has to be happy they're left out of this. They don't have to travel the country like they did with Aaron Judge for like 2 weeks.
Does Aaron Judge does his parents have to go to this? I don't think they have to.
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean,
was that obvious? I don't know. It's a question I had to ask.
Well, I would ask him a serious. Gordon, you followed the '98 chase, right?
Yeah.
Will there ever be can you ever really put the same kind of energy into a home run race as a fan? To me, there's nothing. A guy could hit 107 home runs in a year will never affect me the way it did that year.
If someone got to 73, because you also have to think about how much time passes. You had the problem was back then it was everything was it was almost like every year you had the home run chase, and then Bonds got it and just completely made it cartoonish.
Yeah.
To hit it.
He got 100 on the test.
Right. I think it's not going to happen anytime soon, but if it ever did happen again in our lifetime where somebody got to, 68 home runs with a couple of weeks still to go, I think it would capture the imagination.
I think so too. I think
it will
73
not be,
with a number.
You will never have Sosa McGuire again because I just think even think if a guy gets to 68 and he's chasing 72, it's just not going to be the same thing.
I disagree because I think it may depend on the people. Like if Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani were in a home run race like Sosa and McGuire, and they were both chasing 73, I think that'd be the biggest thing ever. I think that'd be.
I don't think it would be the biggest thing ever because that 61 number had lived for so long, and it was at a time where baseball was a far bigger everyday thing to the casual sports fan and the everyday sports fan. I don't think that 73, if we're talking about this in 15 years, I don't know where the state of baseball is going to be at that point, and I don't think it's on the forefront like everything
totally
else.
agree.
But I do feel like you mentioned earlier, Pearl, I do think that I think people want that record to go. I think people look at that record for a lot of folks, and they feel like there's
baseball
something
certainly
icky.
does.
Yeah, definitely. They feel something icky about it. So if there is a athlete who is quote unquote perceived to be clean, approaching Barry Bonds,
Perloff doesn't.
He couldn't even let me get that sentence out.
That doesn't exist to Perloff.
But perceived as quote unquote clean, that is a chasing Barry Bonds. Now maybe that's impossible because maybe you can't be clean and do that. But if that was to happen, I do feel like there'd be so much support behind that player chasing Bonds that I think it would be a pretty big fever.
Well, also, too, I mean, I think time has passed. People don't remember how embarrassing the media was around this. People knew. And I think there's been enough time where the media doesn't care about it. They're like, well, there might be guys doing stuff, but we are going to be ostrich with our head down and totally ignore it. All right. Thank you, Gordon. This Aaron Rodgers thing, by the way, that he doesn't care about the Jets, I'm really curious. I still think Aaron has a grudge against 31 NFL teams. I think any team.
True.
I think that he can find a grudge on any team. But does this Jets game really stand out? I want to hear from you. 888-710-4ISN. 888-710-4476. We also have a rogue tweet that upset an NFL team president. I want to get into. That's next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Late to bed, late to rise. Checks out early, ain't no surprise. Never caught punching 9 to 5, but on a Denver court, he comes alive. Forehand blazing, backhand mean. The mile high king with the roots defeat routine. Every service a dagger, every volley a sting. While Maggie and Perloff let the praises ring. Oh, Day's got the magic touch. Beating you easy, beating you much. From Colorado walks like a junkie at 3. Blueberry rappers on the studio floor, half asleep, laughing, still asking for more. Unprofessional, sure, but that's his brand. Coffee in one and crumbs in the other hand.
Down in Music City, there's a man named Jay. He's tuned in to Maggie and Perloff every single day. Life's been a battle, he's been losing for years, but now his motto's clear: no more losing tears. He's been down, he's been low, but now he's ready for a brand new show. Jay's got questions, can't let it slide. Who's running the YouTube on the Infinity side? Jay in Nashville calling out the crew. Who's behind the curtain? He demands the truth. Peter Bummelotti's ghosting, no work in sight, but Jay's got the Maggie and Perloff show to make it right. Make it right. Been a loser so long, my losing's all gone. Tapped out my bad luck, it's time to move on. From his couch in Nashville, he's solving the case. Infinity's mystery, he's all over the place. He's got theories, he's got plans. Is it Moose or Perloff behind the cams? And Bellotti, forget it, he's MIA. Jay's the one who's showing up today. Jay in Nashville calling out the crew. Who's behind the curtain? He demands the truth. Peter Bummelotti's ghosting, no work in sight, but Jay's got the Maggie and Perloff show to make it right. Make it right. Jay's turning his luck, rising up the ranks. Infinity answers, he's storming the banks. Bellotti might miss it, but Jay's always there with a sharp-eye question and a comfy chair. Jay in Nashville calling out the crew. Who's behind the curtain? He demands the truth. Peter Bummelotti's ghosting, no work in sight, but Jay's got the Maggie and Perloff show to make it right. Jay in Nashville, he's taking the stage. From loser to legend, he's turning the page. Infinity's mystery, Bellotti's no show. Jay's the real MVP of the Maggie and Perloff show. Make it right.
1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff show. EJ sitting in for Maggie. EJ is a Jets fan, and he thinks that Aaron Rodgers is holding a vendetta against his former team, and we'll see it in Week 1 when the Steelers visit MetLife and play the Jets. I you know what? You're probably right, but I think he holds vendettas against a lot of teams, and he'll move on to his next vendetta. Let's go to Rich in California. Rich, you know some Aaron Rodgers, obviously. Do you think he is holding this game as a special game in the NFL schedule?
I think, to be perfectly honest with you, he's giving you a standard canned answer to a question that if he really said what was on his mind, it would be a distraction from what he's trying to do. Whether he wants to embarrass the Jets, I don't know. But I think he'd be perfectly happy if he left the game in one piece.
Do you think Rodgers is going to do anything this year, Rich?
I don't know that he's a 40-some-odd-year-old quarterback, not terribly mobile, getting off of a rather cranky Achilles tendon. I would seriously wonder, why anybody would necessarily waste a whole bunch of time on him. But it clearly shows the lack of talent in the quarterback position in the NFL when somebody like him gets even a look.
Yeah, I mean, Rich, I don't know if I totally agree with that because there are a lot of guys a lot of the backups are good enough to start. It's just he is AaronRodgers. He threw 4 touchdowns in his last game. Appreciate the call. What do you think? What are your expectations for Rodgers this year, EJ?
I think you'll see some of the same from last season. I think that you'll probably see some health difficulties. I think you'll see probably some moments of brilliance, and you could look at my Twitter feed from last year. You'll see some games, like especially the Patriot game, where I was like, wow, I've never seen a Jets quarterback make some of these throws. But you won't see the consistency. And I think you'll see, again, his body break down. And I think the problem will be that he may maybe finally figure it out by the end of the season, but it will be too late. So I have the Steelers missing the playoffs. The AFC is too tough. I think there are too many good teams in their division. And I don't feel like the Steelers, who already lost their first-round pick to an MCL sprain, Harmon, he's going to be out for a considerable amount of time before he's able to get back. So that's like lighting a pick on fire for this first year for a team that I think definitely needed some youth on defense. I feel like the stats may look okay, but it's not going to tell the whole story, which is essentially what happened last year.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take to think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. I think they're plus money to make the playoffs. So, yeah, it's going to be tough.
That'd be a big disappointment. I mean, Mike Tomlin is Mr. I never
But
have a losing
he's gone
record.
9-8 a bunch of times, and he's missed the
Right.
playoffs and still had a winning record.
A couple of times, yeah, but most of those years he's made the playoffs, and none of those years he had I guess besides Ben Roethlisberger, he didn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah,
behind center. Like then they brought in DK Metcalf. Like they made moves to make the playoffs and to win a game. The expectation is not okay. If we make the playoffs and yippee hooray, because otherwise you would have brought back Russell Wilson, or you would have not allowed the Jets to outbid you for Justin Fields. You would have been fine with what you had. They changed course because what was happening was not good enough.
That was just the only thing left was Aaron Rodgers.
They could have re-signed Russell Wilson, and they could have ran it back. If everything was fine,
Russell
he could have
Wilson
ran it back
lost his last 5 games. Right. That was realistically not going to happen. I think they are destined on a collision course for 10-7.
10-7.
10-7, 9-8. I mean, the joke is Mike Tomlin has never met a 10-7 season he does not love. So I think that's the most realistic option. It's not just Rodgers. It's Arthur Smith. He wants to be conservative. They signed DK Metcalf for big money, and who knows if they're even going to throw him the ball. Their defense got run all over last year.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of old. So there's a lot of issues. I'm not even sure where they get the 10 wins this year, but that's the Mike Tomlin magic. He'll find it. Maybe special teams. I don't even know.
That's why I don't see it happening. Again, I've been.
So you think they'll have a losing record?
I think this is the first year. I think it's going to be the painful irony that they would have signed Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to be the reason why they have their first losing season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the hype is gone downward and downward and downward for Pittsburgh because they haven't really even been sniffing the Super Bowl. Now it'd be a miracle if they got out of this AFC. Okay, another AFC North team, Cleveland Browns. We've been talking all morning. They traded Kenny Pickett to the Las Vegas Raiders, leaving Shedeur third on the depth chart. Let's go to Chris in Birmingham. Chris, what do you think of the Browns quarterback situation? Oh. Chris has been on hold for a long time. He might not be there anymore. All right. EJ, Chris. I appreciate the call. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
What do you think Chris would have said about Shedeur?
He probably would have said that. He always seems to think that I'm wrong on something. So I probably missed the boat on something with the Cleveland Browns situation.
And you know where that comes from. Because you are too pro-ACC and anti-SEC.
I know, yes. It always comes out with Chris.
That's why, and I'm
pro-SEC,
pro-SEC, anti-ACC. So I was actually hoping for some support from Chris here.
I think he may be back, though. If you wanted to see it, we could take him one more time.
Hey, Chris, you there, buddy?
Yeah.
What's happening?
So what do you think of the Browns?
I think when I think about the Browns, that they'll be fine. The point being is this. This case, I will side with EJ and entertain the quote unquote conspiracy agendas to a degree, because Perloff, the thing is you're missing here. I'm a Saints fan. I can say this. Can you, without the shadow of a doubt, here on live airways in front of national radio, claim that Tyler Shough is a higher draft ceiling and stock as a pro football QB than Shedeur Sanders? Because here's a key factor in mind: Tyler Shough, Sanders was at least in New York to claim hardware. Tyler Shough wasn't even in the vicinity.
Chris, I think I'm having technical difficulties, and I cannot say on a national show that Tyler Shough. Don't make me do that. I can't do that.
You got to stand on something, baby. You know, you can't show your cards, and then someone just pick up your hand, you see it's a dirt. The next thing, it's not good enough. I'll throw that in. You know,
give me Jalen Milroe. Give me Milroe. I'll say I liked Milroe more than Sanders.
Can you generally say that, huh? Can you generally?
Yeah, well, because I'm a Jalen Milroe super fan.
Don't say it tongue in cheek.
I like Milroe. I don't love Shough. But then again, I actually said to EJ when I first saw Shough throw, I'm like, man, that guy's got a big arm. So like,
he does, yeah.
And he's a tall guy. And the NFL, by the way, always likes height. And Shedeur, by the way, if Shedeur was 6'4", we wouldn't have any of these conversations. He'd be starting in the NFL right now. He's 6'1.5". You said it. The talent is a bit iffy there. All right, coming up next, we get back to our season-long quarterback carousel. We have maybe the most interesting one. EJ's favorite, Sam Darnold, next.
Oh, yeah.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
He's turning the page. Infinity's mystery, Bilatti's no.
Well, downtown Texas, there's a football team. Got $1 billion stadium, living the dream. But the fans don't holler, don't hoop, don't cheer. They just sip on Merlot and nibble on brie. They got boots on their feet, but won't step in no mud. Call it America's team while their wine's getting judged. Talk about championships like they're still in their prime, but I swear they care more about the notes in their wine. Oh, Cowboys fans with your fancy hats, eating aged cheddar while you clap in the stands. Too busy sipping that Porto Red to notice your team got whooped again. And people still ain't at work. Yes, he's stuck with y'all at a wine and cheese church. They wear big old hats but never break a sweat. Talking about that like he's Brady's threat. Wear suits in the front row, acting all posh. Meanwhile, their playoff hopes just got squashed. They tailgate with Sam and that's lightly seared. Pairing white wine with playoff tears. They got money for days, they got yachts and stocks, but still can't explain why they love Jerry's box. Oh, Cowboys fans with your fancy hats, dip and Gruyere while you make playoff plans. Too busy sipping that Chardonnay to notice the Eagles just ran away. And people still ain't at work. Maybe he's chilling in Dallas with all you jerks. Well, I'll take my beer and my barbecue over a snob with a plate full of goat cheese stew. I'd rather see a team that don't fold in December than hear about them boys from a wine club member. Cowboys fans with your pinky out, talking about rings while your team's in doubt. Too busy snacking on fancy breed to see the NFC don't belong to thee. And people still ain't at work. Andrew Perloff loves his turtle, call it chill shot bliss. He feeds it kale and lettuce, then gives it a little kiss. Andrew in the tank with a slide, a tiny hammock, and a treasure chest plank. Two-tone Tony rolls in, his turtles got swag. Cruising slow but steady, repping that reptile flag. Meanwhile, Kevin LaMelle's got tacos on his plate. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he's got no time to wait. Turtle love, taco dreams, Andrew and Andrew living supreme. Two-ton Tony, slow and steady crew. Kevin's got breakfast tacos, what's Peter gonna do? Yo, Perloff's turtle chillin', basking in the heat. Bogush's turtles flexing, got gold chains on its feet. Tony's turtles on TikTok, racking up views, while Kevin's tacos sizzle, serving up the news. But Bilatti's MIA, not a damn thing new. Work? Nah, he'd rather just hit snooze. We're out here hustling, making turtles the stars, and Pete's just ghosting like he's hanging on Mars. Turtle love, taco dreams, Andrew and Andrew living supreme. Two-ton Tony, slow and steady crew. Kevin's got breakfast tacos, what's Peter gonna do? Yo, Perloff turtle spotlight, tacos taking the stage, while Bilatti's excuses keep showing his age. Perloff's turtles named LeBron, Bogus calls his taco just for the show. Tony's turtles trained in breaking the mold. Kevin's got a taco so spicy it's gold. And Pete, yeah, fuck that guy, still a no-show. The legend of Bellotti always laying low. Turtle love, taco dreams, Andrew and Andrew living supreme.
Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie, who is on vacation, famously will never tell Manny where she is going. I know where she's going. She's having a great time. She weighed in on a number of things via text to me. She's very interested in this Kenny Pickett trade. Kenny Pickett, of course, was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Las Vegas Raiders last night, which frees up room for Shedeur Sanders to be the third-string quarterback. God, in the history of football, I can't remember a third-string quarterback ever getting this much hype. Because I don't remember Tebow would go around and they'd try and stick him on special teams or a tight end.
Wildcat,
So this is a unique situation where Shedeur Sanders is the most hyped rookie out there, and he went in the 5th round, and he's behind a third-rounder in Dillon Gabriel. I can't wait for the Browns to start playing football so we can maybe move past this hype and see what they really have. Is Joe Flacco looked great in his third preseason game. 2 years ago, he led them to the playoffs. Dude still got a cannon of an arm. I think Joe Flacco is going to be better than you think because he never had any athleticism to start with. He hasn't changed at all. He's much like me as I age in basketball. I could never jump, so what difference does it make as I'm old?
So Perloff at age now is just the same as Perloff at 18.
Yeah. Well, you were a high school basketball player, much like myself, who aspired to be more than we were. I wore ankle weights, and I got my vertical up a little bit, but I don't really need it. I'm deadly from the outside. Joe Flacco is deadly in the pocket, and if you squint, you can see some talent in Cleveland. You got Jerry Jeudy, you got David Njoku. Obviously, you arguably have the best defensive player in the league on the other side of the ball, and Myles Garrett. So you could trip into some wins. It's unlikely they're going to replicate what they did 2 years ago. But Kenny Pickett is gone. Does this, if you are upset about the way the Browns handle Shedeur, does this make you feel better about the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation?
You feel better about the situation. You feel better about Shedeur. But what you're asking is, why wasn't this done sooner? Or why did we go down this winding road? Because if you really were going to come to the conclusion that one of these veterans is going to go and the 2 rookies were going to stay, then if you're in a position where you're developing quarterbacks, why wouldn't you give them as many reps as possible in mini camp and OTAs and in training camp so they're not buried on the depth chart? Because once you get to the regular season, those reps disappear. They're gone. Like, Shedeur Sanders being third string means now that he is essentially almost like a practice squad quarterback. So he's running scout team. Yep. He's holding a clipboard. He has a headset on. He is not seeing the field at all. So when the Browns talk about they emphasize the development of these quarterbacks, I just feel like they didn't maximize this opportunity. They could have done that had they decided that either Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett was QB1 and that was going to be it, and they were going to go forward with that, and that these two guys were going to get these other preseason reps and these other training camp reps. Instead, we wasted our time with Kenny Pickett for a week or two before he got hurt, and we wasted our time with, Joe Flacco playing but then not playing preseason. Everything's a mess. No one has been benefited from the situation. Joe Flacco hasn't been benefited. Dillon Gabriel hasn't been benefited.
Why has Flacco not been benefited?
Because he's been sitting on the sidelines. When this first started, he was actually with Shedeur Sanders, which was kind of crazy. He was the one that was almost
training him.
Yeah, it was. I know you're right. It's like onboarding.
But but Joe Flacco's fine. They developed Joe Flacco exactly as you would develop Joe Flacco. There's nothing wrong with what they did with Joe Flacco.
Remember what we heard last week from Mary Kay Cabot? There was kind of this. We don't know if it came directly from Joe Flacco, but it felt like it was coming from him. This idea that when am I going to get some real burn so I can get ready for this regular season? What's going on? Like clearly that was a concern for someone in the Browns organization, because otherwise Mary Kay Cabot wouldn't be saying it on a podcast that we were getting close to the season, and because we were doing this song and dance with all these quarterbacks being in the room, that it seemed like he wasn't going to get the right reps. Now, look, he went out there in the preseason. He looked sharp. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He looked – well, no,
he's 40. He's 40. He didn't need preseason. He doesn't need reps. The guy's had he's 18 years into his NFL career. He's had every rep he'll ever need.
I know, but if he's saying he needs it, then I'm going to believe him. So to me, that is a concern. So I feel like all of these quarterbacks were done a little bit of a disservice only because this didn't have to go this way. Nobody thinks Kenny Pickett is a star. Nobody thinks Joe Flacco is the future. So just pick one of the guys and then develop the two guys and give them real time to get their growing pains out the way during mini camp and training camp.
Here's what's different. The Cleveland Browns are treating Shedeur Sanders like he's a fifth-round pick, and they don't want him to see the field. The Raiders don't want to see their sixth-round pick, Cam Miller, a quarterback, see the field. The Steelers do not want to see Will Howard, sixth-round quarterback, see the field. The Eagles don't even want Kyle McCord on the active roster, a sixth-round pick. Like, they are treating him like a fifth-round pick. They do not want their fifth-round pick rookie who's never taken an NFL snap to be trying to win meaningful games with them. They want him to be a developmental quarterback. And this is how you treat developmental quarterbacks.
I get that, but again, some of those situations, there is a lot more certainty near the top of the QB depth chart. There is an idea that those teams have quarterbacks who can win them playoff games, get to the playoffs, or go to the Super Bowl. There is no one who thinks that Joe Flacco is leading this team to the playoffs. There's no one that thinks
that's not true.
The Browns as a playoff team?
Joe Flacco could lead this team to the playoffs. It's at least within the realm of possibility.
Nobody thinks that's going to happen, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to totally dismiss him as a team. If Dillon Gabriel is a starting quarterback, you're totally going to dismiss him. If Shedeur Sanders is a starting quarterback, you're totally going to dismiss him.
Yeah, but I think
there's at least a sliver with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, but some of those other teams you're talking about, you're talking about, Jalen Hurts. You're talking about, even Geno Smith. We just talked about earlier about this excitement going on in Las Vegas. Like there is an idea that those teams have quarterback situations that are set. As you mentioned, Joe Flacco was signed for $2 million and he was on his couch. The guy was not some sought after player, not some guy that was seen as someone's going to be a difference maker. So I think the perception with the Browns quarterback situation was this was in flux. And also, I will repeat, Kevin Stefanski kept saying this is a competition. He did not have to say that. He could have just said there are
That's
only
just
two
words.
Well, what do you mean it's just words, bro?
I mean, come on. He's a coach. Every coach talks about all they talk about is competition.
Perloff, all you are your words. So
not if you're a coach, because your words are complete meaningless gobbledygook. Andy Reid hasn't said anything in 20 years. Those words mean nothing.
But for us, as the observers, all we have is to take what he is saying.
No, we don't. We don't listen to coaches. Like, when do we listen to Belichick or Andy Reid? Like, all these guys have been lying to us for 20 years. If they cancel
press conferences tomorrow, you would be the first person being like, "What? So we're never going to hear from a head coach again?"
Like we were talking about Mike Tomlin earlier in the show. Do you try and make head or tails of what he's saying in the press conference? They're all just trying to get through.
He's a jigsaw puzzle.
Andy Reid, like the great coaches, famously say nothing in interviews.
But when they say there's a quarterback competition, people take that.
No, I mean, come on. They say everybody is competing. Their action said there's no quarterback competition here. And
I
to
do
be
agree
honest,
with that.
How could Shedeur Sanders beat out Joe Flacco in a quarterback competition? Joe Flacco's seen every defense known to man. Like, he's ready to play in the NFL.
Then why would you say it's a competition? It made no sense. You're making my point.
They want everyone to compete. I mean, honestly, and you're Quinn Ewers, for example, went into the Dolphins. Like, nobody cares if he gets a real opportunity to be anything more than a developmental guy, and they don't have a stable quarterback situation. They have Zach Wilson and Tua Tagovailoa. Those guys will probably get hurt.
No,
It's just all about Shedeur.
Yeah, but he's not going to outplay Tua. I do think that there are people who don't feel like Joe Flacco was very good or that Kenny Pickett was very good, and some people who don't think that Dillon Gabriel was very good. And that's the situation, which is why I said I don't know why they took this guy.
But I think the Browns think like, oh, he's here in the 5th round. Like, I think they actually view him as a 5th round draft pick. All right, we got to get to our quarterback carousel. Hit the music.
It's great for the NFL that you have great quarterback play.
Finding the right quarterback can change your franchise forever.
Can you throw it like a quarterback third in the line?
32 teams, each with just one signal caller.
It's my quarterback.
Maggie and Perloff answer one big question about the quarterback.
All right, we're going to go to a team that's a bit under the radar, I believe.
Yeah.
There are some football analytics nerds who love them, but I think the general public has not been talking a lot of Seattle Seahawks, EJ.
They have not.
So today we're on Sam Darnold. And I guess who has the big question?
This is going to be Manny Rodriguez again.
Manny, hit us with the big quarterback question for the Seattle Seahawks.
Gentlemen, over 4,300 yards passing last season and 35 touchdowns, but a new scenery for Sam Darnold. Can the former Jets first-round pick replicate last season's magic?
Oh, I mean, those numbers outside of Minnesota, outdoors without Justin Jefferson? No. There is no way he is throwing 35 touchdowns. But there is a chance this team is better than we think. Because you look at how they're designed, they want to be the Ravens. They have a former Ravens coach. Kenneth Walker, and this might be my fantasy owner brain speaking.
I have him too. So
people are hot on Ken. Like, there are a lot of people like, whoa, watch out. I saw an interview with Jackson Smith and Jigba the other day. They're like, watch out for Kenneth Walker. They're running back. Then Zach Charbonnet is behind him. He might be the best second-string running back in the league. I think that the Seahawks are going to try and run it down your throat. So that could put Darnold in good down and distance situations and make him effective. I think a big issue with Darnold is how healthy is Cooper Kupp going to be? His wide receiver 2 behind JSN. Listen, they had for a long time wide receiver was a strength of this team.
Yep.
DK Metcalf, obviously Tyler Lockett. Yep. Now Cooper Kupp and JSN is a bit risky because Jackson Smith and Jigba, high usage guy who is not big, so he's a little bit of an injury risk. We'll see how that all works out, but I think they're going to be more conservative here, try and win a little more with defense, and they got some studs on defense. I think there's a chance that this team quietly sneaks into the wild card, but not because of Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold could be solid, not have to be anything like last year, and still be good enough to get this team to the postseason.
This is the second stunner. Earlier, I had to apologize to Joe Burrow because he was right about what the Bengals had to do this offseason. I gotta say this. I think he can.
I think he can,
but guess what? It's fool's gold because, yes, he can replicate those numbers, but it's going to end the exact same way it does with Sam Darnold, which is when they get to the postseason or when they face the top teams or when they're in a position to maybe make some noise, that's when Sam Darnold oftentimes turns into a pumpkin. Because you mentioned it. I really like this skill group. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I badly wanted in my fantasy draft and did not get, I think he's one of the best kept secrets in the NFL. I think because his rookie year was a little underwhelming, people kind of just decided to stop looking at him. If you watched him last year, he looked like a dude. I mean, I think he is absolutely well fitted and ready to step into that number one role. I know Cooper Kupp does have some injury concerns, but I'm thinking that, maybe first year in a new place, he can get over some of that stuff. And you mentioned Kenneth Walker as a solid running back. They also have good tight ends too. They drafted Elijah Arroyo out of Miami.
That's a rookie, dude. And they traded Fant, right?
I know, but
I don't know. That's a strength.
This guy is 6'5", he's 250, and he runs like a wide receiver.
A second round tight end? I don't know.
And we've seen some of those guys pop. I like this
as
skill
rookies.
Group. Sometimes. Yeah, we've seen some of those guys do well. But I really like this group. I like even Torrey Horton, a later pick that they got, who was terrible in his last year at Colorado State, but 2 years ago looked like a star. I like this skill group. I like their coordinator. That's a big thing too. They got Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, but has Kubiak had quarterbacks who put up the kind of numbers, like those huge numbers that Darnold did last year?
Maybe. Well, Derek Carr had some moments, but here's the one thing I'll say about him. Sam Darnold's coming from that system that KOC has. KOC and Kubiak and all these guys are all from this Shanahan-McVay tree. I think that the offensive system is not going to be as foreign to him. Now, when it comes to the amount of yardage, playing outdoors and maybe some rain and stuff,
That's
maybe
what I'm
he
saying.
has some issues,
Yeah.
but I think he's going to come close to putting up some big numbers. It may not matter in terms of winning a Super Bowl or winning playoff games, but in terms of just pure stats, I think we're going to look at the season and say, wow, Sam Darnold put together another statistically really impressive season.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do that at all. I think they're going to be a much more conservative team than Minnesota. I think they're going to try and run, defense. And if he got 35 touchdowns for them, then I will eat my lunch or something. And I like Sam Darnold.
Eat your lunch.
I don't know.
So, buddy, please eat your lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, listen, Mike McDonald, where does he come from? He comes from the Harbaugh tree.
True.
And he's got some Michigan in his blood. And whenever I think of Michigan football, the one game that stands out to me is Sharon Moore, interim coach, handing the ball off 24 times in a row. That is the DNA. I feel like this is a different style team than Kevin O'Connell's Vikings. And honestly, I give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit for Sam Darnold's success last year. Now, I disagree a little bit. Darnold was bad at the end, but the O-line clearly fell apart. And
they did.
You know that because they invested so much in it in the offseason. Now, the Seahawks O-line, that's where, that's been a work in progress.
It has.
That is, to me, the biggest question mark. I think if they can run the ball, they can protect everything here. Then they got, their defense is really interesting to me. Devon Witherspoon back. They got a lot of names on defense, so they could be interesting. Really, really tough division. Although their schedule, everyone talks about the Niners' schedule being easy.
Yeah.
The Seahawks get some of those same advantages. They got the AFC South on their docket, and they have an NFC South. So I think you could have multiple NFC West teams in the playoffs. I think you could easily get the Rams, Niners, and I think the Seahawks and Cardinals will both challenge. I don't think those teams are going to be bottom feeders at all. I think it's going to be a lot of teams between 8 and 11 wins, and I think Seattle's going to be in that window.
I want to ask you a little bonus question in this QB carousel. We mentioned the Raiders earlier today, and we talked about Geno Smith. Who do you think has better numbers this year, Geno or Sam?
Oh, Geno. He's indoors. I think what I've seen of the Raiders, they are going to run Gentry a lot, but I feel like they're going to let Geno cook. Also, too, Geno is a better thrower.
You think so?
Yeah.
They both. I mean, look, they're two Jets quarterbacks that have broken my heart, so I get it. But they both have good arms. They both are pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think. I was just watching preseason. Geno threw some bad picks last year, but he was again in Seattle, an offense that wanted to be conservative. He wasn't allowed to totally just let it go. I feel like with the Raiders, they're going to let him be more aggressive. So I think he's going to have a big year.
I could see that. I think the only reason why I'll lean Sam because again, I think I buy the skill group more in Seattle. I know Brock Bowers badly wanted the Jet was an absolute baller last year, but the rest of the skill group they just brought in. When they signed Amari Cooper, I actually thought it was one of those one-day contracts. I was like, oh, they signed him for 1 day, and he's going to get his retirement. That's so nice. Then I had to read the fine print, and I was like, wait a minute, he's actually going to play this year? I thought he was completely cooked. So I think that does speak to some of the concern they have about their skill group.
Yeah, want to guess the age on Amari Cooper?
32. Yeah, I was going to say 32.
He's 31.
Damn it.
Okay, so
he shouldn't really be cooked.
No, but I watched them play, though.
And Jacoby Myers, who was their number one last year, wants out. That's not good. They do have this rookie, Dante Thornton Jr., with the crazy combine, who had a nice catch in his preseason game. It's going to be a lot of Ashton Genty, and it's going to be a lot of Brock Bowers. But I kind of think Geno's too good to just sideline him. I think he's got to let him fling it down the field. Tough defenses in that division, by the way, because Denver's defense looks legit, and Chiefs' defense is good. We'll see. That's a great bet. Let's do it this way, EJ. Let's do this bet. Low stakes.
Yeah.
Who has more touchdowns?
I think touchdowns is fair. Yeah, because yards, that could be more indoors, outdoors. I think touchdowns is.
Yeah, I'll go with Geno, and you got Sam.
I'll go Sam. Yeah, I'll go Sam.
All right. Fun debate. All right, let's change topics to college football. We're getting so close. I can't even believe it. We already had week 0.
Yep.
Week 1, the narratives that we've been talking about all summer, we finally get to see Arch Manning. We finally get to see all the top players, but there's one game I think that is taking both your and I attention.
Definitely.
We're going to get into not the Texas-Ohio State game, but the 1B, the most exciting college football game of the upcoming weekend. That's next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. If you're watching on Infinity Sports Radio Network, your YouTube channel, EJ is wearing the coolest t-shirt, sweetest swing in baseball, Ken Griffey Jr., and that is because we'll be joined by not only Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. next hour. That'll be a lot of fun. I plan to ask him if I can squeeze it in, who has the sweetest left-handed swing in baseball right now, because I want to hear him say Bryce Harper, because I'm a Phillies fan. But,
so this is a self-serving question.
Yeah, I mean,
the answer is Ben Rice, by the way.
There's a lot of competition there.
Trent Grisham.
Oh, yeah. Would you stop with the Trent Grisham thing? Just because a dude has a mustache like you, Manny, that is not all that matters.
Yes, it is.
You have to now be Trent Grisham for Halloween. There's no debate
There are
about
multiple mustache men that I am pondering for Halloween.
You talk about him too much. We can't do someone besides Trent Grisham.
So a little behind the scenes, Maggie and Perloff show. Maggie's on vacation. EJ is here, and EJ is hosting a recent Syracuse grad to show him the ropes a little bit. And he was just trying to sell us the Syracuse-Tennessee game as a great game. And I was pretending to buy it, but now these are on the other side of class. Come on. We got Texas, Ohio State, and more importantly, Syracuse. I mean, it's just if you're a huge fan of the color orange, that's a great game. But other than that, I do not know. Then it's 7:30 at night. Here's the game, I think EJ and I and Maggie, too, are focused on a lot. The 7:30 prime game, LSU at Clemson. Mm-hmm. That is going to tell us a lot about the upcoming college football season. So, EJ, I asked you, who has more pressure on them? The LSU Tigers, number 9, or number 4, Clemson?
I know they're ranked lower in the coaches poll and the AP poll, but to me, I think this is a massive spot for one, Brian Kelly, and for the LSU Tigers. We know the bugaboo that has been the first game of the season, right? They lost to FSU in embarrassing fashion. They lost last season in embarrassing fashion. They for whatever reason, and you had Brian Kelly banging the table, not again, when they lost to USC. Like, this first week 1 situation has been a disaster for LSU. For some reason, they don't come out ready to play. Mm-hmm. Even though they've come in favored in these games, they've come in with a lot of hype for these games. For whatever reason, they just haven't shown up. And if Brian Kelly loses another week 1 against a premier opponent, and I do credit LSU and their program for scheduling tough in week 1, because how many of these SEC schools want to just play cupcakes until they get to the real schedule? So shout out to him for at least putting them in situations where they had to play tough games. But, man, if they lose another one of these games, the pressure cooker that's going to be Baton Rouge is going to be hot, because the expectation when he got there was that he was going to turn them into an immediate national championship contender. He was at Notre Dame. What do you keep saying? Oh, the restrictions and the location and all the things the guy did with being a Notre Dame coach. It was actually a deterrent for me. It was actually a detriment for me to try to build a champion. That I couldn't build a champion here. That's why I had to go to LSU, where they got all the money. They're in one of the hotbeds when it comes to recruiting, and they had all the resources necessary for me to build a champion. Well, they have not been close to being a champion.
Yeah,
they've been right. So they've been decent, but they have not been close. So you come into this season, you're ranked top 10. You have an opponent in Clemson who is ranked in the top 5, but what do we keep hearing? The ACC is trash, and the SEC is so much better. Well, you're playing against an ACC team that everyone keeps saying is fool's gold and fugazi. Go out there and take care of business if you're the big bad SEC.
Okay.
LSU has to win this game on Saturday.
Okay. First of all, you're stating things like you're revelatory. Everyone knows Brian Kelly has not lived up to expectations. Everyone knows he's on the hot seat. But the pressure in this actual game, to me, is on Clemson. Because no one's saying this is a fugazi ACC team. This is the best ACC team against arguably the 4th best SEC team. And that's why they're favored. And here's the thing about Clemson. They return 80% of their roster. That's the most in all of FBS. They will not really embrace the transfer portal, so they are cyclical, like old school. Like, their guys have gotten older naturally through the program, and now they're all there, much like Ohio State last year with its defense. Like, this is the year for Dabo Swinney. Now, the pressure is so much more intense for Brian Kelly. Like, you're in tiny Clemson. Nobody's going to be that mad at Dabo if they. I mean, there is some resentment going against Dabo, but it's nothing like what the LSU fans. LSU fans.
Who was
are
that guy
crazy.
in Myrtle Beach that he hung up on on his show? They don't do that radio show anymore.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot more at Clemson. But this is the year. If Clemson is ever going to be a national title contender again, it's got to be this year, and they have to win this game. This is the one game I think, like, to set the tone. If they lose this game, then they'll probably make the college football playoff because they'll run the ACC, but nobody's going to take them seriously because this is a real test for them, and it's at Clemson. Like, I think they have to win this game or that is going to color the whole season. If LSU loses and say it's close, then I think people will be after Brian Kelly. You're absolutely right. But I think they realize, okay, they have a ton of time to prove who they really are. I think the committee and fans are willing to forgive week 1 losses, especially if you schedule tough out-of-conference games. So I think LSU can survive this. Clemson, however, if they lose this game, I think it's not only going to make them look bad, the whole ACC look bad. And listen, let's face it, if they can't win with Cade Klubnik in his final year there, I don't know when they're going to win. I do agree with you. Like, Brian Kelly's in a much bigger hot seat, but if Dabo really wants to win titles, it's kind of got to be this year.
But here's the other thing I worry about with LSU if they lose this game. Is you're right in the idea that they're in the SEC, so in some ways they'll have other bites at the apple, and this will be a quote-unquote good loss if, again, it's not a blowout or anything like that.
Right.
The problem I have with this team is I also question football character a little bit about what's going on at LSU. That is a program that in the last 2-3 years, even under Brian Kelly, has had a ton of talent. They had the Heisman Trophy winner who then went to the NFL.
They tripped into the Heisman Trophy winner, but yeah.
Yeah, but he had the Heisman Trophy winner who went to the NFL and then became an immediate superstar, and they could not even win with that guy. So when I look at this LSU team, and they come in a situation where they keep saying, not again, we're not going to lose in week 1, we're going to take care of business, and they lose, I would be concerned about what that does to their psyche and what that does for their preparation for the rest of the season. They've been able to rebound and be competitive.
But they're underdogs. They're not the dominant LSU team of the past. Like, why would that hurt their psyche?
They're number 9. It's not like we're not talking about this losers or poor. This is a top 10 team.
They're going to a top 5 team.
Right.
There's clearly a difference. Everyone knows there's a difference this year between Clemson and LSU. Like, Clemson's like a real contender. LSU is next tier 2.
I mean, you say that, but I think a lot of that has to do more with that LSU has not lived up to expectations. That's the biggest thing. If LSU did what they were supposed to do, when you have a Garrett Nussmeier, who's also a returning quarterback, who's also getting NFL looks, like Cade Klubnik, I think if they would have done what they should have did last year, they would be in the top 5. But the problem is people don't believe in Brian Kelly. People don't believe in this program because of the direction they're going in, despite the talent. They have still Harold Perkins is still there. They still got
talking about
players.
Disappointment. I mean, Harold Perkins is nothing and that's on him. That's not on
some of that's on the
program.
coaching staff, though. I think that some of the changes they made and moving them inside, I think, didn't help.
That's not what I've heard about Harold. Like, you listen. He's had his own issues. But this, by the way, LSU has put more guys in the pros, them, Alabama, and Georgia. This is not the most talented LSU roster compared to the other teams. Like, they've had pros at every spot before. They had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Joe Burrow.
Of course.
So anyway, the one thing about Clemson too, this is their in season. Dabo's not going anywhere. I got to tell you, I heard an unofficial rumor of who might want at the LSU job.
Ooh, this is juicy. I want to hear this.
Nick Saban might want to coach again.
He might want to come back, you think, to LSU?
Just saying, makes sense. I know it's coming back. Forget the coming back. Like, if Nick Saban did want to coach again, he likes that part of the country. He knows the potential of LSU. I don't know. That would feel like a pretty natural transition. And if Nick Saban ever made a call and said, you know what, I would be slightly interested in this job, that buyout would be paid for Brian Kelly in 2 seconds. Just a wild rumor. I'm not saying I heard that from anyone close to Saban, but I'm just saying there could be some big names in line if Brian Kelly struggles.
I think it makes sense. I think LSU is one of those. It's not maybe a traditional blue blood, but I think it's a crown jewel job because of the money and the resources and the location. But if Nick Saban retired from Alabama and quote unquote because of the college football game has changed in a way that he couldn't adjust to, and then he went to rival LSU. I know he was there already, but if I was an Alabama fan, I'd feel some type of way about Nick Saban. I'd feel some type of way because I'm like, man, all you had to do was just wait a couple of years before this thing got figured out, and then we would have been fine. But you got so impatient, you just gave up and quit. And then as soon as, they figure out the NIL and roster salary situation, then you decide to come back and you're going to go to LSU, the place that we're competing the most with probably when it comes to recruits and everything in the region. That would make me feel some type of way. I'll be honest. I don't know how safe he'd be coming back to Tuscaloosa if he goes back to Baton Rouge.
Well, it's like Bill Belichick, Nick Saban's good buddy, actually would have taken the Jets job.
I know. Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
When when you're in your 70s, you might not have all the choices in the world. That's just a rumor. I mean, that's all.
It's funny.
Nick Saban
It's
looks pretty happy on TV. But I do think if Brian Kelly does struggle, I totally agree with you here. If Brian Kelly struggles and doesn't make the playoff, he's likely out. And I think that, they were big game hunting with Brian Kelly. Tons of success in Notre Dame. I think they would go big game hunting, and there would be some massive names in line for that job. All right. Speaking of massive names, let's go to Gordon Damer.
That's right.
With today's headlines.
Well, speaking of massive names, Ken Griffey Jr., only Mariner to ever hit 50 home runs in a season. His highest total, 56. Cal Raleigh moved another step closer to that last night. Home run number 50 for him. First switch hitter to ever have at least 20 home runs from either side of the plate.
It's a very cool thing. I'm sure at the end of the year I'll be pretty happy with it. Like I said, just going to keep going and just, happy we got to win. And, the goal is to get to the playoffs and win a World Series.
Now, Perloff, you were confident that he would pass Aaron Judge for 62.
I would say confident, but you know what? I'd place a wager. What do you think my odds would be on that?
I don't know, but Judge hit 62 in his 125th game.
Wait,
Raleigh hit.
Did we hit 50 in his
50th in his 125th game.
Yeah.
Raleigh hit it in his 132. So he's kind of behind the pace of Judge.
Oof. All right, that's tough. Okay, yeah, but Raleigh's kind of hot. 3 in his last 2 games.
Yeah.
All right, so I would get plus money on that.
Oh yeah.
I think he does it. Wow. I think he at least ties it, and I will bet you, EJ Stewart, Brett's at breakfast.
Breakfast? Okay, I can do that. I'll say he doesn't.
Now
I
I'm nervous.
think the pressure is going to get to him.
Gordon, why didn't you tell me that rate before?
Well, I wanted to kind of gauge where you were at. I gave you the stat, and then you said that you're still confident he can do it.
I'm still confident that he matches it.
Well, I don't see how this is my fault. EJ and Manny not happy about Alec Boehm complaining about that parabolic mic last night. Also not happy, the Phillies postgame crew.
You caused a 19-minute delay on something that's been there since at least 2017. We went back and checked. That exact same thing has been there since 2017.
A parabolic microphone.
Yeah, so it does seem like it's not just Manny and EJ.
Even the Phillies postgame is like, this guy's a clown.
They were just mad because they lost the game.
And it would probably they wasted 19 minutes. They could have been home already at that point. If you're going to lose the game 13-3, at least.
That was, I tell you what,
quickly.
That was one of the things I felt watching last night too. Was I'm watching this game, I'm like, man, I'm kind of tired. Like, why does this game feel like it's dragging? And then I'm seeing they're showing the Dodgers Cincinnati game has gotten in the way. I'm like, that doesn't normally happen. I'm like, oh right, we lost 20 minutes because Alec Boehm saw something in the outfield that's been there for years and said that it had to come down immediately, otherwise he couldn't play baseball.
If it was a non-Philly, say they were playing, I don't know, the Brewers or some playing a team that's not a rival, would you guys care as much?
No.
Okay, fair.
No, I'm being totally honest.
Fair. That's being honest.
And the reason why is because this is so Alec Boehm. It's so Philadelphia Philly. It's so front runner. It's so now the game is tied and something is wrong. Like it's
like front runner. How's that front runner?
Yeah, because when they were winning and they were dominating and it looked like they were going to run the Mets out of the building. That thing that was in center field was not an impact at all. It wasn't until the tide turned, the game got tied, and then he into a back-breaking double play where all of a sudden it's nope, you got to take all the things down in center field or I can't play. I can't see. Come on, someone give me a safe little bubble.
You guys got to get a
Boehm.
life. Who cares about Alec Boehm asking for a delay in the Mets-Phillies game?
My sleep cares. I could have went to bed a lot earlier if it wasn't for Alec Boehm and his stupid behind.
I'll give you that. All right, Gordon, what's next?
There is something in the air at the U.S. Open, and it is not the concession stands.
I'm not a big fan of the smell of weed when you go around. No, but seriously, it's not even. I'm not even joking here because it's every corner of every street. You smell it by almost anywhere you go.
Yeah, that's Casper
Welcome to
Ruud.
New York.
Yeah, he's the men's number 12 seed.
Yeah, it's insane.
And he was playing at Louis Armstrong Stadium, which is an outdoor stadium.
Here's what I'll say, though. Yeah. I think, because I was thinking about this, we were driving through Manhattan this weekend because I was driving to Pennsylvania, and we actually saw one of those U.S. Open cars. and which was really cool because I'd never seen one in action, so to
Wait,
speak.
what is it?
So, like just what we were talking about with Scotty Scheffler when he had this whole incident, and I learned for the first time that, like, PGA, some people drive themselves.
Courtesy vehicles.
Right, but they're courtesy vehicles. So we saw one of them going into the city. It was very clear they were probably going to pick up either an official or maybe even a player who was staying.
Okay.
So to me, what I'm thinking is this player, he probably's been in Manhattan a ton. Like, I know they play in Queens, but
they stay in Manhattan.
You're not gonna smell weed at Louis Armstrong or
No,
Arthur
he was complaining on the courts. You
Really?
can smell it on the courts.
I mean, New York is insane. You can't walk down a single street without somebody smoking in your face. And the thing that it's not like cigarette smoke. It just doesn't go away. The city has lost all track of normalcy on smoking in
That's
public.
weird though, because I go to the U.S. Open a lot. I mean, I most of the time I've been on thrash.
But since they legalized weed and now this summer has gotten so ridiculous.
Smoking is prohibited on the
Yeah,
ground.
but people are vaping. Even when you vape.
Vape doesn't smell.
That doesn't smell
That
like weed.
definitely does.
Oh,
I walk by every day. I walk behind 10 people vaping weed, and there is definitely a cloud behind them.
Well, yeah, a cloud, but that cloud is odorless.
It's supposed to be odorless. Yeah, I don't.
Of weed? No, I don't think so. But also, too, I go jogging in the park in Brooklyn, and like I'm coughing by the end. I'm like, why are my eyes red? And am I craving nachos at the end of this run? It's so much secondhand weed smoke.
Well, listen, you went on that run, so you could burn off those calories, so you can get those nachos.
You got to get those carbs in after a run, Pearl.
Exactly.
Come on,
And there's like 5 weed stores in my neighborhood. It's like it's gotten a little out of
It's
control.
gone support your small businesses.
But here's the thing, nobody. Let me ask you this, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care if anybody here smokes weed or doesn't smoke weed.
Yeah.
You know why they do it on the street? Because they don't
we
want to
can
do it in
now.
an apartment because it smells bad.
Oh yeah, it's like it's why people
So
don't
I
smoke
got
in
to
their
endure
apartment.
it.
Right, yeah,
because
that's a good
nobody
point.
wants to do it in their apartment because the smell is so sticky. So like then I got to deal with the smell and the coughing all the time. And my kids, my daughter is with whatever. If she ever decides to smoke weed, she'll be like, "Oh, I know that feeling. That's like walking down Second Avenue."
What's so funny is anytime someone complains about the smell, they expose that they're not a smoker. Because like I think smokers are used to it now, so they don't complain. Oh, there's a weed smell everywhere.
I do think it's a time and place thing as well. Like you can be a smoker or a partaker in it, and not feel like at 10 o'clock in the morning that you want to be bombarded with it as well. You can't get away from it.
Also, why would you want to smoke at a tennis? I don't know. That seems like a weird spot.
I have a question. Why the thousands of construction workers in New York? Why are they all openly smoking right before they get up on scaffolding?
I saw a guy yesterday. I thought about you. I was walking home getting on the subway. I saw a construction worker joint in mouth. Like wasn't lit yet.
Yeah, why not?
But I was like, I hope he's off the clock. I hope he's not going to be going up 120 stories. I hope he's done for the day. He's walking my way, literally joint in mouth, just like, yeah, I'm ready to blaze, baby.
Sometimes, people don't have that thrill in their life. Maybe that's their thrill, getting high and going up 150 floors up in and onto scaffolding.
Or maybe going to row 13 at Louis Armstrong and watching some tennis.
I would strongly prefer if people did edibles because I do not love the smell either. I'm with Casper Ruud.
Yeah, Casper Ruud, I found out ahead of time he is no relation to Ravishing Rick. So they were good on that. And then finally...
Wait, by the way, Casper Ruud, Norwegian, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm of Norwegian descent, so he's one of our heroes.
I thought it was originally Rudd. I wasn't prepared for the 2 U's back-to-back. It's R-U-U-D.
Him and Erling Haaland,
There you
top
go.
2 players on Perloff's list.
One of the best six-packs ever.
Victor Hovland, too. Let's not
I
forget
said
him.
Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I know. I'm also bringing up Victor Hovland
very
as well.
then.
Tommy Cutlets is now just Tommy Cut. Tommy DeVito released by the Giants this morning. Not really a surprise there, but
Home
still.
run.
There you
yes. Manny wanted to rip up the rundown and do a whole hour on Tommy DeVito.
You got that right, brother. Big news out of New York.
I think he's going to get another shot somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts somewhere else.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Starts?
Yeah, like he gets in as like a backup. Like something happens where he's like some QB2 somewhere. Like this is not the end of Tommy Cutler's story, I promise.
If you see Tommy DeVito in a game for your team, you immediately start Googling 2026 mock draft.
Did you hear?
Because you have no hope.
You said, I think Tommy DeVito starts, and Gordon just starts? He couldn't believe what you said.
Could not believe it. I think it's going to happen. There's some guy, like, how Nathan Peterman finds his way on an NFL field, even though he's like the worst quarterback to ever step on a field, basically. Some guys just find their way into the spotlight. Tommy DeVito seems to be one of those guys that we're not going to be able to quit this guy.
Tim Boyle is still on a roster, right?
Boyle is the best example. A guy where it's like, we should not know who this guy is, but somehow he gets on an NFL field. DeVito will be one of those guys. He's going to be playing somewhere probably this year. Wouldn't be surprised.
practice squad, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that the Giants would like to put him on their practice squad, but the feeling is that he will not make it through waivers, that somebody will pick him up.
Yeah,
whose feeling is that? His agent with the hat?
Maybe.
His agent with the hat.
You know, the guy, the agent who tries to dress like an extra in Godfather 3.
Well, I know that some Jet beat writers were saying that it might actually be a fit for the Jets because they don't really have a third-string guy that they feel confident about.
That would be something.
His name is Sean Stellato, by the way. Show some respect.
Sorry.
He'll come out and get you.
Jerry Jones not knowing the name of the agent.
All right. We got to take a break here. We got to look at a better quarterback situation.
Gobble, gobble, goo.
There is a darling team, and I mean darling team on the football hipster analytic crowd. A team that people probably aren't talking about enough as a Super Bowl threat. We'll get in that next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We are fired up here today, the Maggie and Perloff Show. It is Griffey Day. We have Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. coming up at the top of the hour. Getting ready also, college football week 1. I'm going to go back in a time machine for a second. 2022, week 1. Georgia versus Oregon. A lot of hype around Oregon. Georgia was elite. Bo Nix gets on the field. Bo Nix, who came in with all this hype and promise at Auburn, disappointed. Gets to Oregon. He gets demolished by Georgia's defense, which turns out to be an NFL defense.
Yep.
If you told me then, during that afternoon or that night, that Bo Nix would go on to lead a team to the playoffs as a rookie, I would say, EJ, you're insane. This guy does not have it.
I'm insane.
Yeah. What's that?
I would have said I'm insane, too, for saying that. Yeah.
But as it turns out, Bo Nix is awesome. I was watching a Bo Nix rookie highlight reel. He really started to figure it out the second half of that season. And now, as a result, you're seeing a lot of hype around the Denver Broncos. Really good defense. Sean Payton clearly knows what he's doing. I think you're even starting to see some people, some analysts, nibble at thinking about them as a Super Bowl contender.
Yep.
How high are you, EJ Stewart, on the Denver Broncos?
I'm fading them a little bit.
Okay.
I think the hype has gotten a little too high. To me, the Broncos, they look like a team that kind of got a year ahead of schedule. I think what we saw from the Broncos last year, sneaking into the playoffs, really finding an identity as a defensive team, and then finding this quarterback who really started to come into his own. I thought we were supposed to see that in year 2 of Bo Nix, and I guess that would have been, year 3 or 4 for Sean Payton. They found money kind of last year with how they played.
Right.
And now people are saying, well, if you did that last year, then this year, you guys got to, make an even bigger jump. But I still think the division is super tough. I still think the AFC is really tough. So if you want to sell me the Broncos and make the playoffs, I can maybe go there. I think some folks still are going, they win a game or 2 in the playoffs. Maybe they come out of the AFC. That feels like a little too much because you're still relying on J.K. Dobbins, who played great for the Chargers last year, but is a massive injury risk. And you're still relying on Bo Nix, who, while I think he's getting phenomenal coaching, that's undeniable with how he played last year and Sean Payton's resume. I still feel like quarterback growth is not always linear, and I think you will see some peaks and valleys because as that season went on, he played better, but there were still some spots where he still looked like a rookie. And I think we saw what happened with Bo Nix at Auburn, where he came out as a freshman and it looked like he was going to light the world on fire. And then all of a sudden things went haywire and all of a sudden he wasn't the same player. So I'm not saying that he's not going to become a star player or he won't be a quarterback of the future for the Broncos. I just don't know if it's going to be this straight stock up all the way to the moon in terms of the Broncos taking a massive leap this season.
Yeah, I think I'm putting him in the playoffs. By the way, backup running back R.J. Harvey is a fantasy
he is.
thing.
Well, if you know your starting running back's probably going to get hurt. That's going to help you too.
Bo Nix, though, he's always had athleticism.
Yeah.
He seems like a good combo of athleticism and discipline within Sean Payton's system.
Yep.
To me, it's all about the defense. I think they could be ferocious.
It's sick.
Defensive Player of the Year last year, Patrick Surtain, shutting it down in the defensive backfield. So that's really where I look at the Broncos as potentially a special team. It's funny, when they won their last Super Bowl against the Panthers, Von Miller was Super Bowl MVP. That was defense, not Peyton Manning. Wouldn't it be funny if Sean Payton, who famously is amazing at offense, I do think, and I'm going to buy it, I do think that he may have found his Drew Brees and Bo Nix. I could see a decade, Maybe not MVP numbers like Drew Brees, but I could see a decade of success with these two because Sean Payton is kind of the man. He's a little older than we think, so I don't even know about a decade, but he is a very, very good offensive coach. And now you have the defense to match it. I had to fade somebody in the AFC West because I don't really want to put Kansas City, Chargers, and the Broncos into the playoffs.
Right.
I'm actually going to go. I'm going Kansas City 1. We're going to do predictions next week. Kansas City 1, Denver 2. Then my question is the Chargers because of the Rashawn Slater injury.
Yeah.
They lost their left tackle. Are they going to have that Harbaugh second-year magic? So I think that's actually, I know we're doing the Broncos here, but I think that's a related question. How good are the Chargers? Like, who is really the threat to KC in the AFC West?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is going to be the question because I think that these are two teams. I think they're kind of mirrors of each other. I think they're very identical. Besides the fact that one has a veteran and one has a younger quarterback, and both guys are young, they both, to me, felt like teams that were a year ahead of schedule. I think a lot of people were like, the Chargers, wow, they really turned it around. And people thought they were going to go on a run last year, and they were a favorite on the road and then somehow lost and got blown out. And that was kind of a surprise. We actually thought that they were going to beat the Texans in that first game. So someone is going to take a step back. I hate the Slater injury, but if I'm going to pick a team, I'm always going to pick the better quarterback. I think Herbert is still much better than Nix, even if I think Herbert is slightly overrated. So I'm going to say the Chargers will survive the Slater thing and still find a way to get back. And I say the Denver Broncos, I don't think they're going to fall off a cliff. This is not a 6-11 team. But, do they kind of go back to 9-8? Or maybe there's someone that's fighting for their lives for a playoff spot. We were wondering what happened. I think that's a possibility simply because, again, with second-year quarterbacks, we always think that, they're going to go out there and it's going to become an MVP candidate. And sometimes it happens. But other times it doesn't. And this is a team that's going to want to win on defense. So for Bo Nix, he's got to, once again, not screw it up and not find the banana peel. And if he's able to do that, that could be one thing. But I expect to see some regression in some moments.
Yeah, I mean, they did. They led the league in sacks by almost 10 sacks last year. Their defense gets after it.
Yep.
All right, we're so psyched. Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. coming up. Sweetest left-handed swing I've ever seen. Can't wait. Next, Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, welcome back. Maggie and Perloff Show. EJ Stewart sitting in for Maggie Gray today. Maggie's on vacation. Big day in the NFL yesterday. It's cut down day, so we started to see some trades, and we also started to see some contracts finally signing. Trey Hendrickson gets a 1-year bump in Cincinnati. And Terry McLaurin, we've been talking about all offseason, signs a 3-year deal essentially with the Commanders. EJ, we spent a lot of time talking about what Terry McLaurin means to the Commanders. We have no doubt he's a great wide receiver. He's very important. But is it possible, with all that being said, that Washington overpaid for their star receiver?
I don't think they overpaid because this is the moment to go in because you have a quarterback who is a bona fide superstar who's in his rookie contract. So if you're going to overpay, so to speak, to keep good players on your team,
good point.
This is the time to do it. So he's north of 30. You wonder about his long-term, commitment in terms of, not commitment, but, his long-term projection in terms of whether he could still be a star receiver even later in his career. Those concerns are valid, but you have a chance to win potentially this season. You saw what you were able to do last year. You won 2 playoff games. You got all the way to the NFC Championship game. If you lost Terry McLaurin or you found a situation where you weren't able to get him out there for week 1 or anything like that, that would set your season back, and you really have a chance to do something special here. So I think that they had to do this. They had to find a way to get Terry McLaurin on the team, ready to go, sign for this next year or two, so that when they come into this year, they look at themselves and say, hey, if besides the Eagles, why not us? The Eagles are the team that they couldn't beat in the postseason. The Eagles are the Super Bowl champs. But there is a lot of reason to be excited if you're a Washington Commanders fan.
Well, apparently the Commanders were worried about his age. He'll turn 31 when this kicks in. Older for a wide receiver. But he's so good. $33 million makes him one of the highest paid wide receivers. We're about to have the Griffeys on, by the way, Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. We're working on that. Meanwhile, Terry McLaurin, the one thing you said about the Commanders, though, is Terry McLaurin really in the list of Jamar Chase, the other $30 million receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, those guys? I don't know. He's not quite even CeeDee Lamb in Dallas. I do not think that we could quite give him that rating. So 33, I was like, ooh, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but I just feel like we're one of those situations where what do you have to lose really if it doesn't work out in this 2 or 3 year window? Well, then he's going to come off the books and you'll pay Jane Daniels and you'll find your next Terry McLaurin. Like, I think in many ways, but when you're a team, we just talked about with the Broncos, when you're a team that has a rookie quarterback and everything else around them is pretty solid, you end up, it's kind of like found money. It's like finding a $20 bill on the street. So now what you do with that money, like if you want to waste it on, I don't know, a six-pack or whatever, you can kind of do that. You're not going to be hurting the wallet. So I think that's why, for me, while McLaurin, the concerns are valid in terms of whether or not he's really that top-end receiver and whether or not he's going to be that guy for the next 3 years, I think it would have been worse had they risked him not being there because I think they would have taken a massive step back.
You know, it's good, too. Jaden Daniels, if you're worried about Jaden Daniels not being that superstar in year 2, man, I watched him. I think he did one series in the preseason, didn't even throw the ball, but he looks so confident. He's so composed. He's such a team leader. I am fired up for year 2 of the Jaden Daniels project.
I am too. These sophomore quarterbacks are the ones that concern me a little bit because I look at them and I say, are we going to see that jump that everybody expects? Now, Jaden Daniels particularly feels like a special case. And he feels like a special case because, in part, he is such an outstanding athlete. He's able to escape a lot of situations. He's able to kind of mask some teams' liabilities. In many ways, he may feel like he is kind of immune to some of those sophomore slump concerns that you have for a lot of other rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he doesn't need to take a jump. He was already in the NFC title game. He is the man. Still waiting on the Griffeys. We're figuring out some audio issues on our end here. So hopefully we'll get that started soon. It's funny, you know who also is left out in the cold of this deal? Terry McLaurin, the Terry McLaurin deal. The Dallas Cowboys, once again, it's like another blow to the Cowboys, having the Eagles looking so solid and the Commanders looking so solid. We're going to do playoff picks next week. Man, I got to tell you, I feel like Washington has just boxed Dallas right out of this conversation.
I know, and that's why you see the frustration from Cowboys fans, because the Commanders, in many ways, we talk about the Cowboys being this laughingstock and this joke. The Commanders were on a whole nother level when it comes to embarrassment and jokes, when it comes to just where they've been as an organization. And to see the Commanders in basically one draft, because that's all they had that separated them from being a laughingstock to being a serious contender, and they're doing it with a former Dallas Cowboy coach in terms of an assistant in Dan Quinn, that's what really kind of is the knife in the back, is this is a team that, as bad as things have been for us, we've owned them, and they haven't been a factor at all. And they just lapped us in 1 year because of one guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, obviously the coaching staff had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, we're waiting for the Griffeys. Seattle baseball. We talked about it earlier in the show. If Cal Raleigh, who just hit his 50th homer, challenges 62 for Aaron Judge, is there a break-in on national TV shows, college football, SEC football? And I was just thinking about something. Ken Griffey, when he was in Seattle, was the single must-watch player in the entire league. So it has nothing to do with him not being a New York Yankee like Aaron Judge. I'm pretty sure that we are going to break in for Cal Raleigh.
I know, and it's going to be exciting. I can't wait. We're gonna see. I think a race that is going to come down to the wire.
Oh, it's going to be great. Okay, I think we're ready to go here. Sorry, we're having a few audio issues, but we're really excited because Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. are joining the show to inspire early detection and open conversation around prostate cancer for Depend. Now, we've talked to Emmett Smith about this for Depend before. It's a really incredibly important topic for EJ. EJ is sitting in for Maggie, and I think as two men, we talk about this a lot. We talk about this with our fathers, and that's why it's so special. Thank you, Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. for joining us today for such an important reason. How you guys doing?
Good. I'm doing fine.
Oh, great. So I want to ask a question for Senior. It seems like we're having a moment where there's a lot of father-son duos in sports. Obviously, Deion and Shedeur take up a lot of our conversation. Arch Manning is a nephew. But Senior, if a famous sports dad who had a career of his own has a kid who is elite and is sort of getting to the pros, what advice would you give them about being a father in that situation?
Well, being a father was the toughest part. The kids had the easiest part. All they had to do was play. And I just wanted to make sure he had no pressure on him and he just enjoyed playing the game. So that's what got him over the hump, was he just enjoyed playing. So, but it took him, I'll tell you, it took him from age 12 to right before his 18th birthday to get a hit in front of me. You know.
Yeah, no, it's funny because Steve Sarkisian is the coach for Arch Manning in Texas. And he had advice. He said, Arch, just be yourself. Now, Junior, you came up with all that hype. When you look at a kid like Arch Manning and you know there's so much attention, how do you put all that hype to the side and just sort of do your job and have fun playing baseball, for example?
Baseball is the easiest. Playing your sport is the easiest thing to do. It's just the things that come after. Being a 19-year-old in the big leagues can't do a whole lot. So it was, video games and, hang out with friends at the house. So, that was the easiest part. It's navigating through the media and the stuff that, you didn't learn in high school. The real world. What is the real world like? 19 years old, taking somebody's job who, is married and has a kid. You have to feel that and understand that, it's going to be tough, but go out there and play and try to not let it bother you. But you're still, this guy is, has kids and he's trying to feed his kids.
We're talking to Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. They join us on behalf of the Penn Stand Strong for Men's Health campaign supporting Prostate Cancer Foundation, a very, very important cause. I had a question for you, Junior, because it feels like Seattle is having a real moment, right? Like you had each role getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, Cal Raleigh putting on this spectacular all-time great season when it comes to catchers, switch hitters, and maybe just all-time hitters. You know what it's like when the city of Seattle is red hot when it comes to baseball. For perhaps those who aren't in the Pacific Northwest, just give us like a vibe of the temperature of just how special this year has been for the city of Seattle.
It's very special. I mean, people don't, when they think of the Northwest, they don't really get a feeling of, because we're not in New York, we're not in Chicago, we're not in LA, we're not a big city, but we have big city moments. And going out there, what the Cal's doing this year, with Ichiro going into the Hall of Fame, I mean, the city's been on fire for the last, 4 months. So it can continue to, it's going to even get better, with him getting closer to breaking records and things like that. But it's a nice time to be a Washington, resident.
That's awesome. We're talking to Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. So, Senior, I watched a highlight reel of your career yesterday because I just sort of missed you coming up. I've obviously followed your son very closely. You, 1 year, came really close to winning the batting title. Back then, the batting title when I was younger was a huge deal. What do you think of the state of the game today where people don't talk about batting average and don't think about batting average? Do you agree with that philosophy?
No. Batting averages, at one time, you sit there and think about Louisville Slugger. If you hit 280 or better, they would always give you a check of what your average was and more, whatever it was. But that was a big bonus. In other words, that was one of the most important things, was where you stood in the batting race. And like I said, that day I lost it on the last day. Was the situation wasn't my fault. I'm just telling you that right now. I just, the manager just didn't play me. I was supposed to play, but he didn't play me. So ended up Matlock had 4 hits and he won the batting title outright. So which was great. But he ended up winning 2 more anyway. So, but that was one of the biggest things, was if you won a batting title, you were recognized as being one of the elite players in the league at that time. So, but I had one guy behind me, or he hit in front of me all the time, that he had won 2 of them already, 2 or 3, Pete Rose. So I just playing with Pete and Joe and Johnny and Doggy. They call us in Cincinnati the Great 8. So we're in good hands.
Yeah, but what was your on-base percentage, right? Isn't that all that matters now? What was your OPS?
What is that? we got on base. We were still in the base, so we didn't worry about the OPS. I look at the games now and I'm saying, okay, where's his batting average? And they don't put the batting average out. Well, a reason being, you hit 220, but you got 25 home runs. It's a little different. That didn't. You wouldn't be playing if you were hitting 20 when I was playing.
You guys are here on behalf of Depend, and we're talking about early detection and really open conversation about prostate cancer. Could you guys tell us about your journey with prostate cancer, both as a family member and someone who's had it? Because I know it's a subject that's really near and dear to your hearts.
Well, I started out with the situation that I lost 4 uncles with it, prostate cancer. And during that time, a lot of them never talked about it. They wouldn't go see doctors or anything of that nature. And a lot of them didn't know they had it, So my mother kept me, she was raising 5 boys and 1 girl, so she kept us abreast of what was going on as we got older. And that was the easiest part, because now I can know, as much as I was getting physical, every year I get a physical, and I would understand where I stood in terms of prostate cancer with the PSI and all that. So by the time I hit 55, I was diagnosed, and I had an idea what I needed to do, which was early. The best thing in the world is that if you go see a doctor and you get diagnosed early, you got 99% chance of surviving. I had too many grandkids and too many kids to worry about going anywhere, and the grandkids kept me going. Junior's 3, Craig's 3, T's 4.
Did you just skip my generation, me and my brother? We just go straight to the grandkids. Don't even worry about me no more. I don't want to.
But it's a situation where we looked out for each other, and I finally had to talk with him, after a game. So, but it worked out. He's been doing pretty good with it.
I think, for me, the toughest part was he actually told me over the phone and not being able to put eyes on him. And the funny thing is he ended up flying to Philly. And it was the first time that I saw him. He's going to fly back with me back to Florida. And I got 3 hits that night just because I can look at him and really be like, I'm going to be okay, because parents sometimes, lie.
Lie to you?
Yeah.
Didn't tell you the truth sometimes. I never lied.
Okay. But was it? They finally was able to put eyes on him and look at him, and he said, yeah, I'm going to be all right, just go out there and play. But it was probably 4 or 5 days from when he told me to when I saw him that I was like a nervous wreck and not myself, because, you're worried about your parents. And then finally we had to talk, and now it's easy to talk about, going to the doctor, making sure that you get checked, making sure that things are right, because, there are things that he can teach my kids that I can't. He's a grandfather, so he has to do certain things that I'm not allowed to do, like this fishing trip that the boy's been asking about. I meant to talk to you about that. We'll talk about that later. Sure.
It's interesting, Junior. Shedeur Sanders gets talked about a lot. His father had bladder cancer this offseason. And I don't think anyone really even gives him any leeway that must have really affected him as he's trying to start his pro career. He probably had a lot on his mind.
He does. I mean, as a son of a professional athlete, or any dad that, has been successful, it's mind-boggling and hard to sometimes focus. I think for me, not being able to look at him, know that, Shedeur went home and saw him and came back. But it's still, Deion finally revealed that he the tubes and stuff coming out of his body. That's tough to see. I mean, you don't want anybody seeing it, and especially your parents. And I know how hard it is firsthand of you know when somebody get diagnosed with something and you're battling. There's nothing you can do about it, but be supportive and be there for them.
Talking to Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. here on behalf of the Pen. Jr., one of my favorite things about your post-career, we talk about you guys being one of the all-time sports families, is you've kind of become the Where's Waldo of sports because of your photography. That's become a new passion of you, and I'll be watching sporting events, and I'm like, that looks like Ken Griffey Jr. on the sidelines at the Cowboys game or at the home run derby, and your photography is phenomenal. And what I was excited to see was your son Tevin, who played at Boise State, also getting into photography as well. Now, you've had the absolute honor of playing with your dad on the field, but now you've also had this love of photography, which your son has taken up as well. So I wanted to ask you, if you had a choice, if you could play with your dad again or shoot with your son at one of your most famous events or most popular events, which would you choose?
Probably my son.
Don't worry, he'll get a knot on his head before long.
He's always been into photography.
Wow.
It's just that his pockets didn't allow him to buy certain equipment. But he's been into movies and production, ever since he was, 6 or 7. He would, be able to recite a movie after seeing it once. And I'm like, I've got to see it 2 or 3 times. And he's over there, the transition wasn't right on this part of the film. I'm like, and how do you know that? He's like, just look, it's not, I'm like, okay. But finally, I broke down and gave him my backup camera, and he's off to the races.
That's so cool. All right, since we have you, got to ask one baseball question for both of you. Take yourselves out of it. Best left-handed swing you've ever seen.
Best left-handed?
Ooh. You can go Cargo, you can go Cano, you can go Bonds.
I would go Bonds.
I mean,
I'd go Barry.
There's a lot of them.
Okay. No Ted Williams, no one you saw on tape?
The only other one
he saw probably Ted Williams.
All right. Well, we really appreciate the time. I would go Ken Griffey Jr. I think EJ would as well. Senior. Like nothing personal. He just had a higher OPS.
Champion. That's all.
Well, I was looking at advanced analytics.
First one.
Well, guys, we really appreciate the time. And again, such an important cause. Depend teaming up with Ken Griffey Jr. and Senior to inspire early detection and open conversation around prostate cancer. Really appreciate the time. And I hope to talk to you guys again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, EJ. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. I love how father and son rib each other. Nothing like we talked earlier in the week about the Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson's father actually fighting with his son.
Yeah, this is a much different vibe.
By the way, Senior I watched his highlight reel of him. That was no joke. That dude could play.
Oh yeah, he was a real player.
Just a different era a little bit. It wasn't as a much home run oriented game, and he had a combination of ability to hit for average, but some power and speed. Like, I think if he had played modern baseball, say he came up in the 2000s, I think his numbers would have been huge.
And he played on one of the all-time great teams, playing for the Big Red Machine.
Yeah, incredible.
Like you talk about a baseball life. We had more time. Would have loved to have asked them. Like, there's a documentary that they did for MLB Network, The Kid, that was awesome. I would love to see a biopic for these guys.
Oh,
we have so many great biopics.
Yeah,
Moneyball.
Pete Rose in there. You already did a Pete Rose one, but you're right. We didn't get to know. We saw interviews with the other guys. All right, we got to take a break. Yeah. We have more college football coming up, including talking about a program that has gone totally under the radar. What happened to USC football? We'll get in that next. Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. That was a lot of fun to have Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. on the show. If you didn't hear it, you can listen on the podcast. Of course, you can go to the Odyssey app. EJ, that was basically every father and son or every father, grandfather combo I've ever seen in my life. The dynamic was immediately like, that's actually a father and a son talking.
Yeah, that felt like me and my dad hanging out this past weekend, bickering about small stuff and stuff. Yeah, that was a trip. If you're a baseball fan or a sports fan or a Griffey fan, that was a real treat.
Yeah, all right. Let's go to college football. Have to go quickly here. We've been going around all the major conferences. What defines a successful season for each big team? We have 4 more teams to do today. Manny, hit us. Where are we starting?
Well, Perloff, we will start in the ACC with their defending champions, the Clemson Tigers.
All right, Clemson returns 80% of their roster, the most in FBS. This is national title or bust because it's a program that's won 2 national titles. Getting to the final game would actually be a disappointment for Dabo Sweeney. And it seems like the Red Sea has parted for Clemson. They have a skilled quarterback, Cade Klubnik. They have wide receiver talent now. They have studs on defense. We saw the ACC, all ACC team. It was 11 Tigers out of 22 positions there. So they are ready to go. Their schedule is manageable. I see no reason like they should not be a title or bust team.
I have make the Final Four. I think that the Tigers, who have not finished in the top 4 since the COVID year in 2020, if they make the playoff, if they would have made the Final Four, they would have won at least 1 game, maybe 2. If they do that, I think you could look at this and say, okay, we were in the mix. We almost won a title. Maybe we fell just short. Maybe we lost to a top SEC team or Ohio State or Michigan, or not Michigan, but Ohio State or Penn State. I think you could live with that. I think not winning a game would be a disaster. I think if you get to the Final Four, you're okay.
Well, the funny thing is, though, because Georgia's down, Alabama's down.
Sure.
I mean, maybe they're down. I don't know for sure. But the quarterback position, they seem to be down. Ohio State just graduated a lot of guys, so there seems to me to be a window. All right, what's next, Manny?
In entering his 4th season in Southern California, what would be a good season for the USC Trojans?
Oh my gosh, go ahead.
Okay, so I put win 9 games. That's kind of an odd number. I think 10 would be a lot. But
7-6 last year.
Yeah, so that's a 2-win improvement. And listen, the regression in LA has been real, right? They went from winning 11 in his first year with Caleb Williams. That's Lincoln Riley. Then they went to 8. And Caleb's last year, and then 7 this past season. The offense has slipped. They were ranked 51st in scoring offense last year. The previous 2 years, they were ranked 3rd. So things have definitely going backwards for USC. But Jaden Maiava, who's their quarterback, they showed some promise with him towards the second half of the season. They have 2 really good receivers in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, who actually is being looked at as a top NFL guy, could be a first-round pick. Problem in the trenches. Offensive line has been bad, and is not expected to be that much better this year. Defensive line also had problems, but if D'Anton Lynn, who's their DC, who's improved the defense to at least be respectable, if that improvement continues and that offense takes a step up with Maiava in year 2 with Lincoln Riley, I think that 9 games is winnable. The conference is a little bit of a beast in terms of the conference schedule. They have like 3 straight ranked opponents, but if they could kind of win 2 out of those 3 games, and then if they could steal 1 against Notre Dame, I think 9 wins is possible. I'm going 9 for USC.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they have to have a winning record. It's going to get real hot there for Lincoln Riley. I agree with you, and I think that's kind of sad. It is.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of a bummer. All right,
is.
What's next, Manny?
No more Jackson Dart. What about Ole Miss?
So Maggie and I have had a lot of arguments about Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You know who's having a moment? I think Lane Kiffin is kind of one of the hottest coaches in the league.
Ooh.
Which is funny because if you watch the SEC documentary, it's on Netflix, right? He's pretty cool.
He's my favorite coach on social media.
Yeah. He just seems like he doesn't really care anymore. He does not give a you know what.
He's been through the life ringer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's had multiple firings that have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
He's had a divorce. He's tweeted about trying to get his ex-wife back. Like Lane Kiffin is an interesting figure, but he's been through a lot in his life.
Yeah, so here's the thing. He did lose a lot of talent. Obviously, Jackson Dart has looked great in camp, and they couldn't even get to the college football playoff with Jackson Dart. Now, Austin Simmons comes in. We saw him with a great drive. He's still quite young. He's 19.
Yeah.
He's, has a little bit of experience under his belt. I feel like they're an unknown, but I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Lane Kiffin's a pretty good coach who's going to keep them from totally falling off a cliff despite the personnel change. So I'll say a successful season. I'll go 9 wins as well.
9 wins, interesting. I have make the college football playoff. I don't think the win total matters. That's 9, that's fine. If that's 10, that's fine. But I think they have to make it. The Rebels and their fan base have been dying to see their recent investment in the football program result in recognition as one of the sport's elite teams. Because despite having Lane Kiffin, who's a very well-known coach, well-respected, Charlie Weiss Jr., also a really well-respected, one of the hot young OCs in college football, they've had these talented rosters, but they don't get that recognition as being one of them. One of them big dogs, one of them blue chip kind of programs, because they have not reached that pinnacle. There's a 12-team playoff now. I know they lost a lot of guys, but they have had a loaded offense pretty much since Lane Kiffin has got there, and they have a lot of good weapons coming back this season. The question will be, will their defense that was sneaky elite, number one ranked rush defense in the whole college football last year, FBS, will that defense remain top notch? If it is, you got to get to the college football playoff. So I'm saying Ole Miss, you got to make the playoff.
Do you know how many SEC teams are ranked ahead of them in the AP poll?
How many?
6.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I couldn't even hide that. I'm like, that's a lot of teams.
I mean, they are ranked, 21, which means the playoffs should be in sight. But even you know what? They didn't make it last year. I mean, how are they going to make it this year?
That last year was the year.
Last team, Manny.
Yeah, lastly, coming off a 4-8 season, it's a second season for Willie Fritz. What will be a good season for the Houston Cougars?
I can't believe Houston is this down bad. I mean, 4-8 last year in Fritz's first year. Then they were 4-8 the year before in Dana Holgerson's last campaign. That is the worst 2-year stretch of Houston Cougar football in 23 years. I couldn't believe that number. I didn't know they were that bad in terms of just like a 2-year stretch. So listen, they were like the worst offense in college football, definitely worst offense in the Power 4 by almost all metrics. I have bowl eligible, right? This is one of the only Big 12 teams where we're not talking about going to the Big 12 title game. This is not going to be that for them. But I really was impressed with what Fritz did at Tulane. They did get Connor Wegman, who I know struggled mightily at Texas A&M, but is a former 5-star quarterback. And they got one of the best transfer portal players this year, Tanner Koziol, the tight end. He's expected to be a big target for them. So their offense improved. Their defense actually was really good last year. They just could not score at all. Defense stays solid. Offense improves a little bit. I think bowl eligible will be a successful season for Houston.
I think this all comes down to Connor Wegman now, reportedly, and just has overcome a lot, both personally and football-wise. 5-star recruit, is supposed to be coming in better shape.
Yeah.
Had a lot of issues at A&M. Talent is there. Major unknown. I kind of agree with you. Just a major unknown. It feels crazy to say that they don't have a chance in the Big 12 because the Big 12 is wide open and they've been very competitive in the past. And listen, you know I'm a Cougar fan.
Yes, you are.
My good buddy Case Keenum and my other good buddy Derek King, both Cougar.
I love Derek King because he's he was a great Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, he could have even done more there. He got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Houston usually is in this mix. And I heard rumors of Mattress Mac, who is one of their benefactors, who actually Maggie and I met at a Houston Cougars rally. You never heard this story? We were in one of the Fertitta brothers' apartment in Houston for a Houston Cougars sports fundraiser. I guess all the money went to basketball.
That's what it looks like, right?
But Mattress Mac gave a speech, and I've heard he's had some financial trouble. I mean, maybe it's those $1 million bets. Catching, he's the guy who bets $1 million anytime Houston is in a playoff series. But Houston has a lot of resources to be a really good football school. They're in Texas. You've seen what their basketball has done. Yep. There's no reason they shouldn't be elite. But right now, it does feel like they're in the building stages. So it's a big unknown. I'm kind of really curious to see Connor Wegman because he's a guy we thought, we just talked about Cade Klubnik. Like it was Cade Klubnik and Connor Wegman were talked about in the same sentence. Yep. And he's really had tough times. Maybe he has another chance. All right, Gordon Damer. Give us some good headlines.
All right. Good day yesterday to work out deals in the NFL. You had Terry McLaurin. You had Trey Hendrickson. The Cowboys, Micah Parsons. He's the only player currently holding in while seeking a new deal, so nothing doing there. Chris Collinsworth was asked by your pal Dan Patrick if he expects Parsons to play in the Eagles and Cowboys season opener.
Of course. I mean, are you watching the Netflix thing on the Cowboys? Are you seeing any of that? And, of course, the Emmitt Smith thing, he held out for the first 2 games. They lose the first 2 games. Jerry's been down that road before. We've seen all this. They want to be a show. They want to be all these things. But the problem for Micah is that, they really do control him for the next 3 years.
Oh, boy. That's pretty confident because it is Tuesday. And Micah hasn't really practicing full yet, so he's going to be ready for Thursday. I mean, I'm not going to doubt. He's probably right because usually these contract negotiations end up with the guy playing. EJ, are you as confident as Chris Collinsworth?
Definitely not. I think that Jerry Jones has messed with the wrong one. But I have a really important question for you, Pearl. Do you think that Micah Parsons would step on the field without a new contract?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I don't think he's holding out.
I don't think he will.
You think he's going to hold out?
I think if he steps on the field, they come to an agreement. I think that he is sending a message.
Well, I think they come to agreement anyway. But
sure, yeah, I'm creating a hyperbole.
Yeah.
I mean, a hypothetical that if somehow they don't come to a deal, he says, "All right, well, I'm just going to show up and play," which could happen because Chris Collinsworth is right. Like they basically, and Jerry Jones keeps repeating it. They control him for 3 years. You can play this out, then you can be franchise tagged, and then you can be franchise tagged again. Now, I always kind of roll my eyes at that a little bit because these players can make things very uncomfortable, and they can make a situation untenable. And I think Micah Parsons is one of those folks that he would be very comfortable making things uncomfortable. He's not someone who's afraid of a microphone or making things ugly. So I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys want that smoke, so to speak. But that's interesting. If they can't come to an agreement, I don't think he steps on the field.
Yeah, you put me on the spot there.
I know. I thought about it while I was
it's funny. I think they come to agreement because, and by the way, and I'm thinking about this, Gordon, too, just next offseason, we've spent so much time talking about Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin before that, and Trey Hendrickson.
Yep.
Last year, we spent a lot of time talking about Brandon Ayuk and other players. They usually sign. So part of me is like, why are we always getting ourselves involved in these public negotiations? Why are we pawns in these agents and players' games when they're all going to sign? Second question, why do they wait so darn long? You know the Cowboys are going to sign him, Micah. They're going to sign him and give him whatever he wants. Why have they been waiting all these months?
I think because Jerry is sold on the soap opera being the thing. And I think that he likes, just like Micah's likes being uncomfortable in situations sometimes, I think Jerry likes this too.
Well, why did the Commanders wait so long? They're not a soap opera team necessarily under Dan Quinn.
That's a better question. I think for the Commanders, I think they really thought they had a leverage pull with Terry McLaurin because he was a wide receiver who was older. Yep. And we've heard, and I've heard recently, I don't know if you've seen, that there were real trade requests and trade proposals that were out there. Like, I don't know if the Cowboys have really gone down the road of a Micah Parsons trade.
No.
I think the Commanders did. I'm not saying they were trying to trade him, but I think they definitely considered, is a trade something that would be better for our team and for our future? So I think I think the same thing with the Bengals, right? The Bengals, how many times they kept saying, please, someone give us a top pick for Trey Hendrickson. I think those teams, they wanted to kind of see if there was something out there that could work for them. For the Cowboys, I don't think they're trying to trade Micah. I don't think they were trying to trade CD or Dak. I just think they like the attention, and then they think they like the drama, which is so ridiculous because all it does is put them behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I mean, there was a rumor. I actually saw you Rappaport say this, that teams head called the Cowboys. I think he mentioned the Packers were one team.
I think I did see that.
Yeah, but I don't know if that really was real or was a leverage.
I don't think the Cowboys are interested. I don't think they want to trade him. I think Jerry is very. He's an older dude. He's stuck in his ways. I think he's like, you are a player under contract and I have control of you. I'm not going to just give you up because you're unhappy.
Yeah. I mean, is it possible that they just need to provide us something to talk about NFL in June, Gordon? I mean, you doing headlines here. So if we decided as a show that we are boycotting, we will never do another NFL contract negotiation again, would that sort of limit your ability to come up with NFL headlines in the offseason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we love talking about we talk about the preseason. We all know that doesn't really matter, right? But we break it down like as if it does because we love football and it's the only football we have available. So that's kind of the same thing here.
Yeah. And I think we probably make too big a deal of it. But I think, EJ, what you're saying is that Micah is legit unhappy.
I do think he's unhappy.
Yeah. And Adam Schefter sort of said the same exact thing. I lean more towards this as business as usual. And the reason I do that is because I saw Myles Garrett say, I want to get out of Cleveland and win a Super Bowl. Right. Give me $40 million. And, hey, love it here.
Yeah.
So I just think that money can change the narrative so fast, almost to an embarrassing level with Myles Garrett.
Definitely.
I feel like Parsons could be the same way. Parsons is also quite emotional. Like he's
definitely,
in the sense that like one day he feels one way and the other he feels the next. I think he loves being a Cowboy. And I think he's great for that team. And I think they love having him. So I'd be surprised, like Collinsworth, if they don't figure out a way. All right, one more, Gordon.
I went looking for odds on Cal Raleigh. Hit his 50th home run last night to break Aaron Judge's home run record in the American League. There's nothing. I looked through all my apps, and I have a bunch of apps. There's nothing current But as of August 13th, his odds to break the record were plus 650.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you might want to.
But he's a little hot, so.
Mm-hmm. So they might have dropped maybe a little bit, but still, you're talking what? Plus 500, plus 450?
I don't know. He's at the fifth. He had 3 home runs his last 2 games. You don't think they dropped to, all right, plus 350. Then I'm not doing an even bet with you anymore, EJ.
Oh, come on. I wanted breakfast.
It should be
Too
breakfast
bad.
and lunch.
Too bad.
And then you got to get better
Well,
odds.
I get better. I
Yeah.
actually, I'm just going to go, I might have to go offshore here from New York, but I'm going to make that actual bet.
I don't think I've heard someone tell me too bad since my mom when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted that video game. Too bad.
I'm also curious.
Didn't clean your room, so.
I'm also curious, Gordon Damer, who was sitting in for Bogus today, you have many apps. Well, that sounded like an interesting statement.
Yeah,
Like,
we all have our vices, you know. I'm not smoking weed at the U.S. Open. I got things to do.
it felt like you surfed around a bunch of websites, but the fact that you said you had many apps
Well,
was
I went to the actual apps to see if there was anything current about Cal Raleigh breaking the record.
I did notice that.
There was
also,
nothing that I found.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why do you need multiple? I guess to find better odds. I was like, I don't know. I'm very loyal to the one app.
Yeah, I'm looking at the apps I use. We're using the map app, the podcast app. Let's see, I have a app that parks for me. What would these apps?
You get special deals when you sign up for betting apps.
Betting apps.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I was checking the weather? Well, of course, betting apps. I thought that was implied. I figured that was kind of known.
Okay.
I was not checking Spotify to see if they had any odds on.
Well, I do that.
Raleigh.
It just struck me as like I'm looking around at my different apps.
By the way, has anyone seen how much money was spent to make Happy Gilmore 2? If you had to guess how much money.
I wouldn't think that much. I don't know.
$15 million.
$15 million. You say?
30 million.
He said 50, by the way.
50 million. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do 65 million.
$152.5 million.
Golly.
Wow.
Worth every penny. All right, we got to take a break. Thank you, Gordon Damer. We're going to get into some of the big moves around the NFL and talk about some of the recently released quarterbacks. Are any of them any good? Maggie and Perloff Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Defensive Player of the Week is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. All right, this week Manny is picking the Defensive Player of the Week, and it is tough considering my TV is dominated by Little League Baseball, and I don't think you're going to go there, although the shortstop for Chinese Taipei was really good. So baseball, that's such an individual thing. Preseason football is not about defense, it's about offense. So I think that you are going with WNBA, and you're going to go with Jackie Young, who had 3 blocks for the Las Vegas Aces last night to beat up Chicago.
I'm going to go with Fernando Tatis, who last week, because I know Manny's hatred for Boston Red Sox.
That's right.
Though he's not a Boston Red Sox. Rafael Devers had a home run robbed in right field.
Oh, I saw that.
Spectacular play by Fernando Tatis. Now, it was last Wednesday, so a little bit of a distance, but Manny's hatred for the Red Sox will be enough to catapult Tatis further along here. I'm going to say that that's a pick.
EJ, you got the right city. We go to San Diego for the play of the week.
In the air to center field. Laureano going back onto the warning track. Leaps and makes the catch at the wall. Tagging at third is Otani. He will score. But what a catch by Ramon Laureano in right center. They robbed him of a grand slam.
That is right. Ramon Laureano with a incredible robbery of a home run. Not only a home run, a grand slam from Teoscar Hernandez. That on Sunday and the top of the first inning. Ramon Laureano is your Defensive Player of the Week.
Been a lot of Rob home runs this year.
It has been, and
it's awesome.
They've all been spectacular.
Shades of Adam Jones stealing a home run for Manny Machado in the 2017 WBC. Very close to the same area. Very cool home run. Very cool robbing defensive play.
Definitely remember that.
I mean, still though.
No, you don't.
I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on the details of this. There was that one early in the season. It was an A's guy, right?
Yes.
Who just really climbed that wall.
Yeah.
Denzel Clark?
Yes, and then a different A's guy who I picked for defensive player made a different play, which is really funny.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. We were just talking in the last segment about Micah Parsons. Is it all fluff, or is he really going to play? Big Friendly, I want to hear your opinion on Micah Parsons.
Daddy Cool, EJ, the Bionic EP, Flash Gordon, Manny Poppin' Bands, good morning, and thank you for finally taking my call. I have a question for you guys, and I want you to answer this because I got to go because I know you guys got to go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel ever since E.J. Parsons seen that post with the Rams and the Aaron Donald comment, he's been having second thoughts. Now, do you guys think Michael Parsons has a better chance winning the Super Bowl with a healthy Cowboys or with a healthy Rams with the Aaron Donald addition? And I got to go. Have a great day.
Thanks, Big Friendly. I mean, he definitely has a better shot with the Rams. And that famous tweet was Aaron Donald saying that they could get Micah Parsons. He'd come out of retirement to play for the Rams. But I get it. I understand that. Will the Cowboys trade with the Rams? I don't know. I feel like between the Cronkies and the Joneses, I feel like there's like they're frenemies. Like they're both two of the more powerful owners. But I think Jerry kind of sees Stan kind of parking in his territory in terms of influence and having Hollywood. I don't think he's going to give one of his, if not the best player on his team, to the Rams. I can't see that.
Well, it's kind of funny in the documentary, and I'd forgotten this. They got two keystone parts of their championship teams. Charles Haley from the Niners, who was their biggest rival.
Yeah, that's
then
true.
they got Dion directly from. They outbid the Niners for Dion, but they took Charles Haley. You know what? I think when you're actually in the GM room and the owner room, that you'll trade with more people than fans usually think.
Did that bother you? Like, as
No,
a fan?
it doesn't bother me at all because I know the young guys don't care at all. Like I saw Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the Vikings, say, like, I could care less. I'll trade with anybody.
I know it still pains me as a fan because maybe because I'm a Jet fan, like my team seem to always be on the sour end of bad trades. I don't want to see a guy that was on my team star for a rival. Like that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate to me, once Brett Favre went to the Vikings, I'm like, well, all rules are off. EJ, great job today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
so much
super fun. Big thanks to the Griffeys. Big thanks to Connor, Manny, Cap, everybody, the Weedos, the coffee drinkers. Sorry, Big Friendly, we had to cut you off short, but we will be back tomorrow right here, Maggie and Perloff Show.